as well. And like when I walk to mid lane, maybe I can use my flash.
Okay, let's see what happens and lock in, and let's move into the Summoner's Rift. Okay, the question now, yeah, get the pots, and where are you going to start though?
I think I should start red to get the red buff and then deal more damage. But I'm not sure, like I honestly don't. Maybe the other thing is better.
What is the skill you're going to start with? Because there's a big question between the E and the Q for players.
Yeah. I think without leash, if I start E, I can use my Q to get close to Crux. And then I can use my flash later. So I think I'm gonna try E, but I'm not sure what's like best. Because it's something about like if I get leash, maybe the cooldown is different and I will have Q up again, but I'll try the E. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's bad.
Everybody picks the E because of there's 1 second cooldown faster for the Tempest. Yeah, instead of the Sonic Wave. So let's see how it goes. 30 seconds away. And if you can tell me, where do you expect to be at the end of the ladder? Like, when we're done with the challenge, where do you expect yourself to find yourself?
I mean, honestly, like if some of the other players knew that this was gonna happen, maybe they like prepared some strats, but I am hoping for like middle pack. That's probably it.
Do you have a specific time in your mind that you want to achieve with the full clear?
I actually have no clue. Like, at least in it's, I'm not sure. I don't know. Like 3:30 maybe, I don't know, man.
3:30, okay, that's a good window, and there we go. He starts on with the red, gets the double auto attack, he's going to go back to the Crocs. And where do you think you're going to use the flash though in this challenge?
I think I'm gonna flash over mid lane, then use like Nimbus Cloak speed to run faster.
After the Raptors?
Yeah, but I'm not like 100% sure.
Okay, 50, you get the Q, that's a good clear.
I already like one auto take, I think. But it's fine. It's fine.
And the big question though is, can you get the Tempest full clear on the small ones? Everybody is attempting to do that one. It's really hard to get the second cooldown on that one. 5 seconds. If you miss one Krog, you have to go back.
Yeah, I'm just playing it safe.
Seems like a good
I'm
one.
flashing now, I think.
Instantly to get the Nimbus Cloak. Okay. Full energy. Okay, one touch on every single one. That should be enough to kill them, no, Taxid?
Yeah, this is intense, man.
Okay. The damage from the knife.
Come on.
Oh, okay, close one. The hop, okay, but the cooldown though is way bigger now. Oh.
Yeah. Maybe I trolled it. I don't have attack speed now.
Oh no.
I think I trolled it. No.
Oh no, Taxid. 250, by the way, you still have a long time. Ooh, the Q! Okay, it's enough to get the burn on a wolf. Are you going to do the double?
Yeah,
Are you going to do the double? But how can you pull him now? You don't have the Q.
I'm just waiting. It's fine.
Okay. Good aggro management.
Imagine if I die now. Please.
Nah, you cannot. It's almost done. 350 though. This seems like a good clear though. Getting low, 1 HP. Oof. 320. You're getting so low. The smite.
No.
Okay, 327, 28, I think. Is your smite bugged?
Wait, I thought I had to do the crab as well, dude.
No, you don't.
Wait, really? I'm trolling then. I saved my smite for the crab.
Go. Oh, shield.
Oh,
Pantheon. Go Pantheon only.
Pantheon.
The other ones are dead. I mean, they can't fight. Good job.
One shot. Or not. Oh!
In here.
I lock it.
Oh,
You're
slow
fine.
fight. Slow fight.
Slow.
Slow can fight.
Fine. Back off. Don't die.
No, look back us.
Don't have to be scared.
Yeah, go.
Watch.
No, go, I guess. I'm on Queen.
E2. E1.
Loot high.
Queen low HP.
Oh.
Queen.
Look mid.
Go.
Queen on the left, okay?
I think I die.
I go. I can go.
I stun.
Can I put?
I can help you, okay?
Matteo.
Hey, Shiba.
Push bot.
Oh, pentakill.
E2.
Oh, go pentakill. 어
Wait,
씨발
wait,
너
No, no,
오케이.
I go. Oh, can't.
퀸.
Shiba Sake.
E2.
풀어.
I don't know anything.
Wait.
I go.
I do epic snipe. Epic snipe.
풀어.
Epic snipe. Epic snipe. Epic snipe.
아.
Oh. Viking.
그
That was my
위
epic snipe.
터렛 앤 베이스.
Yeah.
터렛 앤 베이스 앤 드레이크. 카소스.
Penta. Go.
응. 노펜타.
Shiba Sake.
판테온.
Hello, you coming?
Yes.
앞에 봐줘 앞에.
You coming?
앞에.
Hey, me kill. Yes.
캔 다이브.
You wanna die?
49.
I want to go.
같이 고.
오케이 바이바이.
바이바이.
Bye bye, kissing.
GG.
Ever heard of X7 in the NLC? Excuse me there, mate. Have you ever played League of Legends? No. I've not been rejected this much since school. You right there? Have you ever heard of League of Legends? Didn't seem particularly interested in talking about it though. That's fair enough. Okay, these guys. Let's not. Hey there, you all right? You ever heard of League of Legends? No, they may have done. But unfortunately, we're walking in the opposite direction. Right there, guys. Have you ever heard of League of Legends? No. You ever played League of Legends? No. Have you ever played League of Legends, mate?
Sorry?
Have you ever played League of Legends?
Yeah.
Yeah, you a big fan of the game?
I have.
Are you on a delivery right now?
Yeah. Look.
Ah, fair play. All right. Have a good one, bro. Someone's gonna have cold pizza now. I feel quite bad. X7 announced that they are going to be the first team in NLC history to actually attempt to meet fans on the street during their was it? It's the fan on the street. Yeah. That's good though. Yeah, that's cool. Our top story this evening, both of the people in Iceland that watch League of Legends have announced they are going to be tuning in to see Dusty in the NLC. In other news, Singularity announced that they are going to be replacing their entire NLC team with preschoolers in an attempt to develop League of Legends at the grassroots. More on that in a few minutes.
ISTP?
Go.
IST 봤지?
Look
Front
Twitch and Thunder.
Look, Twitch, okay?
Try no flash.
Back off.
Nice.
No, keep going.
Look for flash here.
Look.
트위치.
Nice.
Good, good,
good,
good,
good,
good,
good,
good, good.
Stay together.
플레이스.
Are
We
flank.
are. They're poking us. I stop watching.
I'm ulting. Yeah.
I don't see shit.
Low HP.
Are they?
Yeah.
I can move.
Go.
I feel there's no flash.
Hey,
Go
Myungo.
mid.
Nice.
Mid then.
Babe, Aphelios.
FLS killing his team.
Aphelios.
FLS killing his team.
Look, Aphelios. Go, Aphelios.
They won. Oh yeah, it's okay. Only one game.
Can go.
올라프.
Look, nar.
I hear you, Viking.
Look. Huge ulti.
Ying's town.
Yeah.
I double W.
I can die.
나르 다이.
They're here.
I think we're not shot.
어.
Yeah, go not shot.
Okay, leave.
He hit me, okay? He hit me, guys.
Play slow. Okay.
Can I be?
I hit both.
Guys, I'm dead, okay?
Go.
Vex fast.
Kill Vex fast.
Backside.
You have to kill Jinx.
캔. 올라프.
Can you come back, Viking?
슬로우.
Nice.
Go.
Very good. Play range. Jinx is.
Sing.
Oh, Jinx and N.
No die, okay? No die. Oh!
Mid.
Nice. Wait.
How much?
this
Enemy
fight.
trolling.
Not bad.
3 people. You guys okay?
야 위에.
Win.
Oh, penta.
세나.
Penta?
오케이 펜타.
Oh, Shiva. Wait, what the fuck? Oh, okay.
Oh! Yeah, I don't have E7. Wait, we have one more game though, right?
No.
너.
Oh, it's Scream. Yeah,
No,
it's
one
Scream.
more. Us one more. I want to play. But so fun.
노다이. 엔드.
GG.
나이스 GG.
Enough blind jokes. Stop asking for more.
Welcome everyone to the Lee Sin Jungle Clear Challenge. Today we have Viking from X7. Hello Viking, how are you doing?
Hello, man. I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing really fine. It's a pleasure to have you on this challenge, and you can start, you can do whatever you want, by the way. And my question is, what is Viking 105?
I mean, it was my kilo. I'm like 100 now.
100 now?
Yeah, but I don't have RP to change or something. It's just
You can't keep up with the weight, okay?
exactly.
So we're gonna do the Lee Sin. You have to do the entire jungle and tell me, do you like Lee Sin? Do you even play Lee Sin?
Yeah, I play Lee Sin,
Okay.
but it's like a fun champion for me. I think it's like unique. I mean, I played it NLC twice versus Riddle in the playoffs when we won 3-0, and one other time. But yeah, I mean, it's my top 3 most played on this account in Challenger.
So my question is, so you're really good with Lee Sin. What timing do you think you're gonna get?
No.
The entire clear?
I mean, not sure. I never really do full clear on Lee Sin. You shouldn't do full clear on Lee Sin.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's bannable.
But maybe I'll just do what's it called? Maybe I'll just do 4 camps and look for a gank, and I won't even be able to full clear.
Oh, so far it seems pretty clean. Where do you think you're gonna use the flash though?
Maybe going to Raptors. That's my idea.
Okay, there you go. This is the perfect. Gets the Q.
To do it also again faster.
So already looking for the pull from the Krogs. Not even looking into the mini one, just straight up getting those medium Krogs. And then you're gonna use the Tempest to clear the last little ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it seems really clean. Like, it seems so clean like you're playing X7, by the way. It seems like the team is doing really well together. Are you enjoying playing with X7, this split?
Yeah, it's an amazing team. I mean, I could join most other NLC orgs in the off-season. I could say Dusty, but I felt like it wasn't a project that I really liked, you know? So that was my thought process.
The question is, Dusty are looking clean as well. Oh, the double apply from the buff. That is clean, Viking. You're looking good, by the way. You're looking good. You're really chill, and you're looking really good in terms of clean. Dusty are looking clean as well. Oh, you look good as well. I'm not saying no to that, dude.
Good.
Dusty are looking really clean as well. And oi!
I feel pale this section. No, I didn't feel it. That was close.
That was really, really close. Do you believe you can take the entire split with X7?
Yeah, I think we can. I mean, that's why I joined it. That's why they wanted me, you know.
Wait, this might be the record. 317, 25 is the best. 20, 21, Viking, let's go. 24, 24, you're first, Viking.
Thank you. That's nice.
Is that what you have to say? Thank you?
I mean, I trolled a little bit, but I mean, that was fun.
Nah, this guy's too good. Let's move on, guys. See ya. See ya.
You there? Cut that. You. Mute Nymeda's microphone. He's not even British. Are you wearing Prime League jerseys? In our studio, Hello there! My name is Asharam. I'm the host for the NLC, the greatest league in the world. We are here at the heart of the Northern League of Legends. Open the door, servant. You see, we are preparing something special for Summer Split. Throughout the entire season, our teams have sent in videos of the fan on the streets. I mean, who could forget about a Don Jake rapping about Astralis, or even Bifrost sending in someone eating ketchup. But now, it's your time to shine. Mastercard wants you to send in your fan on the street supporting your favorite team. And the winner will be awarded an exclusive trip to Berlin Spandau with everything paid, together with 3 more friends. All you need to do is just enjoy the behind the scenes, the meet and greet with the players, and that's not even the sherry on the top of it. Not for me, for them. You see, you'll be one of the first ones to experience our new and improved studio of the Northern League of Legends Championship. So get creative and send in your video, all thanks to Mastercard. Open the door!
I think the one that I enjoyed most, and overall the one that brings me the most joy, is probably I think it's called Battle Academia Ezreal, or Battle Academy Ezreal. The one that is like Ezreal's skin mode that is really similar to anime. Right? So I think like the skin is just great. The animation is awesome. Doesn't change the character, but change it a little bit. And also it's really anime-like, and I really like anime, so.
I was gonna say KDA Kai'Sa. I always felt like that skin was really clean before. But yeah, no, I feel like the quality of skins nowadays has just gone up a lot. For example, like the porcelain, what's it called? The porcelain Ezreal skin honestly looked really, really good.
It's Crime City Twitch. That is by far the best skin on Twitch. It's OG, it's cheap, it's like, it feels so perfect, it feels clean. Like, right there, that's it. There's no better skin actually. This is only skin. You're only allowed to take the other skins if you're trolling. That's it.
I mean, there are just some skins that you actually can't play the champion with a different skin after playing with that skin. For example, High Noon Lucian. That skin is just a better version of Lucian. You can't play Lucian without that skin after you've played it.
My favorite skin is Super Galaxy Nidalee. I have it as my picture on most things, an edited version. But yeah, it's pretty obvious. I'm gonna say Nidalee when my name is Don't Bandana.
I think my favorite skin is High Noon Lucian probably. It just feels like so smooth to play. And yeah, I just really like the skin.
It's finally upon us, the time to meet the third and final team that will represent the NLC at European Masters. Dusty is already waiting on the main stage. JDXL still uncertain of the future. And today, at the end of the day, it will be either X7 or Astralis joining them, as you will join me as your host, Alexandre Archaron Maya. And for a good show, I would like to introduce to you the desk. It is no other than Eragon and Triple Link. Welcome back.
Hey guys, happy to be back on the desk. Second time we're working together. Happy that you're back.
Glad to be back. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a former top laner actually for M&M Gaming, a team in this league, now turned content creator and coach, mainly for top laners though.
Top lane, we need that. We need all the help we can muster. As we toss it to the casters of today, I gotta give it to him. They're both British. It is the duo of the brothers, Nymera and Initialize.
Okay. The coast is clear. We just got confirmation. There are no Danish people in the building.
Can't see Gorborg. Duckling's not here either. Pulsar check.
Pulsar check is at 0. Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
It's us. Thought we'd do a bit of a funny bit. X7 were very kind in sending these over, and we are totally
We've been bought.
not repping them at all to this point. I'm very much looking forward to seeing them taking on Astralis later today. Well, now, even.
Indeed. And of course, neither Gorborg or Duckling are here, so they can't defend Astralis right now. So it sucks to be Danish.
Oh, completely uncontested. Anyway, that's enough of us. Hand it back over to them.
Every day, we stray further from Teemo. I'm just saying this. I love those guys. Now, we need to talk about what happened on the previous day. We had an amazing matchup between top seed and the second one, JDXL and Dusty fighting on what we thought would be a 3-0, but it wasn't, was it, Trouble?
And I think this is the most important thing, the fact that both teams showed up. We said it was very critical to know that the level of the teams that we're sending towards European Masters was going to be really high, especially since we're getting 3 seeds this split. And this match was all up for grabs. Now, do I think Dusty showed up 150% with their gears in? No. Do I think JDXL, who needed a bunch of time to integrate their mid laner, showed up the development? Yes. Were both of these running on 100%? I still don't think so, which gives me even more hopes.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things you can highlight from this series, but one thing I really did want to mention is just the level of team fighting JDXL actually brought to the series. Since something we thought was synonymous with JDXL, we thought they were like disconnected, and we called Dusty the best team fighting team in the league, but now you see JDXL actually out team fighting, out skirmishing them.
And I think in general, both of these teams really relied on their team fight, whether we was Excel through the early game or Dusty through the late game. And this particular game, that was the deal breaker. And honestly, I have to give props to Kerberos as well, because out of all 5 games, the first 3 were a little bit lukewarm. Then we saw him on his Nasus and his Darius, his 2 niche picks, and it feels like he gave them, they gave him such a huge morale boost. Even this Darius was actually blind picked and he managed to snowball through the top lane. And again, I'm actually really happy, and I cannot stop reiterating how important it is that these 2 teams that were already sent to EU Masters are going neck and neck.
It's interesting because I reached out to not only Dan and even Torak to understand how they felt about this series, and they were comfortable. They were like, even though we didn't win, we still got to showcase this new JDXL. It's quite important, as we're going to show you how the bracket is looking so far for playoffs of Summer Split. There you go. X7 3-1 on Bifrost. Riddle taking the 3-1 versus Astralis. It's Into the Stars versus X7 today. On the top of the bracket, Dusty takes the 3-2 versus JDXL, which means they're waiting. We still don't know if they're on main stage or not, but they are at the EU Masters nonetheless. Dusty are already there waiting on the main stage, as at the end of the day, this is going to be it. Either X7, either Astralis, jumping into that 3rd seed that we finally got at the EU Masters. What is the feeling?
And I think, like, especially for Dusty waiting in the finals, we heard in Voxnet on the interview, he said being on the main stage is kind of like a double-edged sword. You have 6 games only. Every single best of 1 matters times 10, because you only get 6 in a group setting, and if you fail any of them, it's a huge hit to your chances for quarterfinals.
I completely agree. And before we dive into deep, Eragon, what can we expect from today?
Honestly, I'm just really excited, right? Like, I like a lot of the players on each team. I think we're in for a 5-game banger.
A 5-game today?
Well,
not to jinx it.
If anyone, if this ends up not being a 5-game banger, we know who to blame.
Add him on Twitter and complain, as we need to complain about those two that are going to bring the news today. I might initialize.
Hi, welcome to the NLC News, where we complain about our colleagues too. What the heck's going on over there? I don't know what we're doing, but like I expect better. Maybe. They're great. They're great. Anyway, we're back. We've got things to talk about. What are we going to talk about?
First on up, patch 12.15 has just hit the Rift. It's another bit of a change up as things have been going. Specifically some buffs to Lee Sin and Leona, bit of a nerf to Talia.
Yes.
Quite important to keep an eye on, specifically when it comes to pro play.
So obviously we're not on this patch. This is kind of looking into the future. So yes, this will affect your solo queue. A lot of what we'll be talking about is in regards to pro. See that later on. So Lee Sin, Leona, giving some ability to kind of help their brawling a little more. Leona's got a little less mana cost on her Q, helps her stay in lane with mana sustain, and then her ultimate has a bit more CC duration too. Lee Sin's second cast of his abilities have been reduced by 5 energy. I'm sure if you're a Lee Sin player, you know, well, if you've been seeing the jungle clear, you'll know how important it is to kind of be cycling through your abilities to make sure you have enough energy for that. Talia, though, that's the big one for me, because one of the big things about Talia is when you get 2 items, when you have a Seraph, which gives you a lot of cooldown reduction, and you get maxed out on your Unraveled Earth, that zone denial, dash denying ability, the downtime for that is only about 2 seconds. What's happened now is that the cooldown at all ranks has been increased by 2 seconds. Now, doing a bit of maths, it's not going to be quite that because the cooldown reduction affects that too, but still having even just like an extra second to abuse Talia in a team fight when you're flanking as a Gnar or a Sylas on that patch will be very important to try and take away that champion's team fight zone denial potential.
There you go. Nice little rundown there. Do keep an eye on those changes. Reminder, though, for the NLC playoffs specifically, we'll still be on 12-13, so these changes will not be affecting us quite yet. Moving on, though, Fizz has received a little bit of an update as well, but specifically to his VFX, so some spells and those particles that come with them have been changed. That might hurt him a little bit, as you were kind of musing with me earlier.
So, this is nothing directly gameplay related. When we were in rehearsal and chatting about this, though, I did kind of muse about the fact that a lot of Fizz's power comes from, can you actually tell whether Fizz's ult is flying at you? I'm actually very personally interested to see what happens when I play against this champion again, and whether that ult is more or less visible.
I'll keep an eye on that. We'll see whether that affects him or not. Moving on, though, it's time to talk about some of those EU Masters. Yes. A couple other teams have done it. Specifically, Game Ward managed to secure one of the LFL's EU Master slot, knocking out the reigning champions, Karmine Core. Massive change in the ecosystem. And of course, ex-LEC organization Schalke 04, as I nearly mispronounced that, earned a spot for the Prime League. And of course, Entropic from Hitpoint Massive also booked a spot.
Now, there's a lot of teams we just mentioned there, and you know, we do want to give justice to all of them, but there are some seriously big motions there too. Because I mean, it's going to feel very strange having an EU Masters without Karmine Core, but Game Ward did it through an Inax pentakill and a number of other great plays too. So again, very, very worthy representatives of the LFL, and we know how strong that region is. Whereas, and the rest of it, you know, Schalke 04, that's some brand recognition. I love that brand. It was great to see them around in the LEC, and now we get to cast them again in a bit of a different format, a bit of a different scene. And then Entropic, of course, in their own way, have actually had a pretty stellar year. In spring, they were one of the most dominant teams that the EBL has ever seen. This was an incredibly dominant team. I was hearing a lot of whispers of them. Now, this is from a region which is less likely to make those deep runs, but there's still just that dark horse potential makes me very excited to see them.
We'll have to keep our eyes on them at the international EU Masters event. This is international, multiple European countries and ERLs. I'll hold to that, but our last topic for the day, specifically, it's back. Hexflash is enabled again. They've managed to resolve the bug that was leading to instant respawning, which saw it disabled over the weekend. So that is a particularly big deal for champions like Nautilus and Poppy, who do love to use that ability. So it will be enabled for today.
Now, this route is so important to a lot of those champions you're talking about, right? If you're playing MLA support, you're playing Poppy, the Hexflash allows you a lot of intricate playmaking abilities and the ability to get into places you really shouldn't be. So having that back does very much affect the meta. So having that back, you know, just keep that in mind.
Speaking of places we shouldn't be, here, we're going to go back to the desk.
Oh no, let's go that way.
We never know. From those mouths, we never know what's going to happen. And that's why it's so interesting. Talking about never knowing what's going to happen next, X7. We need to talk about this team specifically because they made a few changes out of a sudden from Spring
And they
Split.
might also be playing today.
I guess so. You told me about that before, but I still don't know if they're going to play it today. But there you go. X7. A few changes from Spring Split to Summer Split. Out of a sudden, it didn't work. That's why we're going to bring it yet again. how they've managed to pilot themselves through this summer split. Give me those wins. We showcased this before when we had X7 versus Bifrost, so this is why Bifrost is still there, so we can highlight this.
I mean, the telltale is the exact same, right? You saw that sort of X7 on the very beginning of the split that were not doing too well. Yes, they were picking up victories here and there, but it was not the dominant X7 ex-champions, quarterfinalists of EU Masters that we are used to seeing. And with the change of MC and Viking coming into the roster, we've seen a resurgence in the victories and only upwards trajectory in the wins, in the matches that we've seen. And Viking, good for him, is still yet undefeated, because yes, he lost one game in a best of series, but a best of series means whoever gets to 3 first. X7 got there first, so he's technically still undefeated.
It's still something clean for X7, but on rehearsal you told me something. X7 are not that clean right now. I just want to get your opinion before we move on.
Well, I think they're good, don't get me wrong, right? I think they have some of the best, the strongest individual players in the league, in Tempt and Chasey. I think they're fantastic. But I do think they looked a bit shaky against a potentially weaker team in Bifrost. I didn't actually rate Bifrost that highly. Props to them, they did take it to them. But I do think in a lot of their victories, they were comebacks off of the back of Tempt, right? Individual play, not so much team play. So it was a bit shaky to me.
So to me, I need to highlight this specifically. A certain member that joined X7. To me, it's like that joke. Viking walks into a bar, there's no counter. But if you look into the stats, I don't understand this. I need scientific or the detective. I need your help, Trouble. Guide me through this. This doesn't make sense. This is only about playoffs, by the way. There's only 6 junglers. He's 5th.
I'll put in my invisible glasses and my invisible mustache, and I'm gonna try to make do with what I have here, because again, this is about playoffs. There's only 6 teams in playoffs. So when you see here 5th, 5th, 6th, 5th, he's literally second to last and last in the stats that we are showcasing right here. But the one that hits me the most is the 56.1% kill participation for a jungler. In particular for me, I think this is an extremely low stat to have as a jungler, because usually we'll see junglers at that 70% benchmark.
What is your take on this?
I think a potential explanation for the low kill participation is the fact that these wins came off the back of Tempt and Tempt alone. Like a lot of these picks we saw Tempt getting onto Fury were on without the help of Viking, right? Which is really odd, which maybe like skews the kill participation down. But I do think maybe an explanation towards being on the lower end is also the fact that they didn't have the best series, right? And naturally you're gonna look worse if your team overall is performing worse.
So this is why Nymeta keeps talking about stats, doesn't... You know, he's always complaining about stats, and out of a sudden we have this.
Need context.
Exactly. And even though it looks bad for Viking, he has been unlocking this team potential constantly. So that's why we approached one of the members of X7. We wanted to talk with Kasing to understand why Viking is making this work so well.
Honestly, it's not that Viking is a bad jungler just because his stats are bad. It's just he's a selfless jungler. He knows how to play for, or not play for, but just understand how a team works. If it requires him to basically sacrifice some camp, some tempo, whatever, just to help Elena get even more ahead or enable Elena to get more ahead, then so be it, you know? Because in the end, that's what's going to get you the win, not getting as much farm as you can in the jungle. Like farming 10 full clears is not going to win you the game because it's not solo queue.
I think it speaks miles on the fact that you need somebody who's extremely stable, understands the map, shadows the right lanes, is there for the counter gank. I feel like X7 as individuals and as a team are so strong that Viking doesn't necessarily have to do too much if they do things themselves, other than being the rock that we knew him to also be in Dusty. So I really like how Kasing said he's also a very selfless kind of jungler, where he's going to drop things, he's going to look bad in stats-wise, but he's going to help his team win through, again, shadowing and counter-ganking.
And I love that. That's why I want to approach you as a top lane, that economy is quite important for every single player in League of Legends. And it seems Viking is capable of unlocking his potential, even though he doesn't have access to that economy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the thing is, when you look at the dropping MC and getting Viking, I think maybe with MC, it was a case of too many, for lack of a better term, 1v9 players.
Okay.
Potentially, MC was too much of a 1v9 player. You can't have that in the top lane, in the jungle, and the mid lane, right? It's too much. There are too many resources. So I think Viking is actually, I think you view it as more of the glue that holds together Tempt and Chasey and facilitates them, allows them to shine.
So this is when we approach a topic, how can they win? What makes X7 X7? And what are the key to victories on this team? And there you go. Okay, Trouble, guide me through these 3 keys to win?
I think all three of these kids summarize very well of what X7 have that is very good to them, and that is individually strong laners. Tempt on his setup CC champions that can push, bleed pressure into the side lanes. He's an absolute menace. He will 1v1 you in the mid lane, even on a Z, and then he will start diving side lanes on his own as well. We're going towards the top side of the map that Tempt has really liked to visit, and that is Chasey. Now that he's a little bit more warmed up, he's gelled up with the team. He's been bringing up the carry champions again, the Fioras, the Jaces, the Nas towards the top side of the map, and of course Attila on his early game bullying champions. And again, if all of these three go the side of X7, this is why Viking doesn't need to do F all. It's because they do the work themselves, and all he has to do is just show up in the team fights.
So everybody can carry. This is a menacing team. And looking at you, you're the coach, even though you focus on the top side. You look into this team. You have to prepare to fight versus them. What do you do?
Well, okay, so that's a really difficult question, right? I think you definitely attack Chasey. If I was the coach of, I believe, who's playing next to Astralis. Sorry, off the top of my head, blank. If I was the coach of Astralis, I would attack Chasey. I think Chasey's shown some weakness in the early, being baited into ganks. For example, he was against Bifrost, Nocturne Diamond Procs. The Nocturne gank at level 6, he just died to it, right? After being baited into the river by some trading. I think Chasey definitely has some issues playing the Aurelia specifically. If you wanted a specific pick, I think he's not too great on, because he has died a lot playing that.
So it seems like top lane could be a facilitator for Astralis if they can poke on that side of the armor. You think that?
I definitely think so, yes. I think you play through Carlson, you try to shut down, get these ganks onto Chasey and put him behind, and that buys you enough time to scale on other roles.
And it's interesting because we have the keys to victory for X7, but I want to understand how they're going to face Astralis today. Because Astralis, when they faced their own team, they were the ones adapting, and top lane should be one of those concerns for Astralis. And they have a simple recipe, trouble. Okay, I'm not a good cook, but explain to me, how can you cook this?
I just want to reiterate that these keys to victory for Astralis were the exact same keys to victory that we used during the regular split. And that speaks tons of the blueprint of Astralis and how it hasn't changed, right? It has all started with the man in the jungle, the Dane, Taxa, who will always play around mid lane. There's three things that are sure in this life: death, German taxes, and taxer ganking level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7, and so on. And it's going to be mid lane, it's going to be around Senkax, because Senkax plays a lot of facilitating champions, easy to lock people down, and they'll bleed the pressure on the sides of the map. When we move downwards, you'll see that Kiba also has been a huge pivotal part on why this Astralis is actually succeeding. The man is literally all over the map.
Yeah, and not to call them one-dimensional, but I definitely do think they have, like, as you said, that play they go for, that flow chart. Okay. But I just wanted to say they are really good at it, right? I don't want to make them sound bad because they only make one play, really. But I just wanted to say they are really good at that one play, right? So, and yeah, just bring it back to Kiba, I think this guy, he doesn't get enough props, right? You talk about the MVPs, people always talk about the 2v2 mid jungle. I think Kiba actually unlocks them to actually make that play.
And before we dive into Kiba, let's talk about your lane, because Carlson usually played those more weak side top laners. He played a lot of Gnar during the regular split, and all of a sudden, we saw this happening constantly.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw this series was actually Carlson in the early game getting the better of trades against Jaxplank, which in turn gave him wave control, allowed him to set up slow pushes. He calls those slow pushes, and that allows Kiba, Senkux, and Taxa all to come topside and deny waves, dive, all these plays.
And let's remember that when it came to Carlson over in spring, if this guy didn't get resources, he didn't get attention, he didn't get wards towards the top side, he would completely fall behind, and then there wouldn't be a counterplay for Astralis. Right here, he's played weak side for majority of the regular split. He's done fantastically well. He's kept up even when ganked, but also you see that do they put their resources onto Carlson? He can also be the carry, and that's very important.
The recipe is simple, but the team is executing it really, really well. And now we can finally talk about the man of the hour, Kiba. The support, they don't get a lot of light. So let's dive into Kiba trouble. You can start.
I'm going to reveal, and that's the only one I'm going to reveal,
Okay.
I placed Kiba as my MVP support of the split. I think the fact that Astralis made one change and one change only, and it was this guy. It was bringing in a brand new support, and holy has he changed the way that Astralis works. His laning phase is extremely strong if he chooses to stick down with Grisberg and play the 2 versus 2. They've gotten kills previously, but what is more important is that this guy, every time he presses B and resets, he does not see his bot lane for the rest of the game. He sees Grisberg literally 20 to 25 minutes into the game, but the pressure this puts on your opponents, and mainly the opponent's support, making sure that you get the right reset, you follow Kiba around. Where is Kiba? Is he in our jungle? Is he mid lane? Is he still top lane? Like, literally, this guy is a menace when it comes to roaming the map, and he just creates purely pressure out of taking mental resources from the enemy team, trying to think where Kiba is at that point.
And yeah, just to add to this, I think something that's not talked about enough is the fact that I used to play with Kiba on a team, and he used to be a jungler. Actually, so this guy actually knows where to be and when, because he actually has a really good understanding of wave management. If you notice all the plays that are happening with Kiba when he's going to different lanes, it's off the back of knowing what a wave will look like, what the wave is doing, is it slow pushing, is it crashing, when do I have to be there, how long will it take me to get there, and what can I do with this wave?
The macro of this team has been ridiculous to keep track of, and X7 will have a hard time to understand where Kiba is. Also, a little bit of highlight into the AD carry. Kresberg is on a long-distance relationship with his support. I mean, he hardly ever sees him. As
They're making it work, though.
It is working. That is quite important for the bot lane, so we need to highlight all of them. So this is why we're going to jump into the mid lane, because if on one side you have Timp, which is a completely menace, on the other side you have Senkax. So we need to rebrand the rebrand. It is working really well right now.
It's kind of like Caps with a capital C and a capital P, right? So I went from Senkax to Crash to Senkax, and it feels like going back to his roots of where he was playing in EU, LCS, and everything seems to be working for him, because that's when he started popping off as well. And I think he's popping off here as well. As you will see, his first blood percentage is so freaking high, because mostly, again, Taxer plays around mid lane. So everything that gets going in that very early stages of the game starts with Senkax.
Yeah, I mean, like, these stats, they're great and all, but it does show how many resources he gets. And just like you said, but I also want to mention, he does use them well, right? Like, nothing, not to take away from Senkax. He gets a lot of resources, but he uses them. He spreads that lead.
And honestly, I'd like to also point out about the resources, the champions she's playing, of course, that do need a bunch of farm, and that do need these skills to start getting rolling, right? And especially since there's like so much lock, CC, and zone control in these champions, they are the perfect setup for Taxa to get in that mid lane and grab a kill, whether it's for himself or for his mid laner.
And just lastly, I wanted to mention something that's really interesting is these two mid laners share a very similar playstyle and champ pool, right? We see the Talias, we see the Silas, the roams around. Maybe not Silas, but we see the Lissandras, the Azirs. They love to get pushed. They love to make early skirmishes and roam.
And also, if you can highlight those champions, those are chaotic to find in the middle of a team fight. On the 5-to-5 man squad, it's really hard to position versus those three, specifically the first one. So be aware if Senkax gets any sort of lead, it's going to be complicated to deal with. So this is why we wanted to meet the man that is behind the team, guiding them through the champion select, and even on the macro. That's why we had a conversation with Vendetta to understand what's going to happen today.
I mean, I'm kind of sad that we can't play on the new patch, because I think one of our biggest strengths is laning. We've worked a lot on laning phase, and we did that before the split as well. And then the changes came in where they kind of nerfed laning a lot. So that was kind of awkward. I think we have some very, very strong, capable laners on our team, and we can play very, very well with mid-section control. We can shift very well. We have a strong read on how to play the mid game, play the 2 lane segments that the LPL and LCK and obviously, I mean, all the pro teams are playing. So yeah, I think those are our strengths for sure. I don't think we really have like I mean, we can play into top, mid, bot. It just kind of depends on the draft, really. X7, for sure, I think. We're going to meet them if we win against Riddle, obviously, in the quarters, in the lower bracket, so that's going to be a banger. They look quite good, and they also are very strong individually. And when it comes to best of fives, I think, it's about consistently. It's about being willing to, be confident and not like be nervous on stage, or not on stage, but in the playoffs. It's going to come down to a lot of like routine from veterans as well, potentially. I think they have a lot of that going for them. They're in good form. They kind of know how they want to play. It seems so. I think they're the strongest. So I wasn't really surprised by any of the players. I was just happy that everybody's so cool, and the vibe is really good. People are getting along. We have a good relationship. People are fun, and that's really good. Karl, I've been surprised by his improvement. He has insane potential. He's 16, and it's going to be his first NLC playoffs, which is very impressive, right? That he's playing at such a high level for his age. Kreis is obviously one of the big veterans of the league and in League of Legends in general, and it's been really great to work with him. He's a very smart player, very talented as well. And Batu is a funny one because he just has such a infectious personality. Sometimes he can also get he can have fun and have a good time, and then some days it could be a little bit rough because he gets a little bit affected by losses sometimes. But he's a great guy, and he has a lot of potential, and he's really improved a lot since we try-outed him. And Lars is a really top tier AD carry. He has a strong idea about how to lane. Obviously that's mainly support's job, obviously, but he has a really strong laning phase. He's learned a lot this split. He's kind of a funny personality as well, and he's just a team fighting monster as well. So yeah, I don't think I have any funny quirks or anything about the guys, but they're just overall a great team.
Okay, there's something we need to highlight from that interview. It is how proud he looked while he was talking about every single player on this team. This is like a dad looking into his family. Okay, so my son, he's really good at arts. This is so interesting to see a coach so proud of his entire team, every single individual.
It's so important. Of course, when they bring you into the team, you need to connect and create some sort of connection with all of your players. And honestly, you would know, of course, having worked in teams, seeing them from outside, how does that look like?
Yeah, it's really, really important to be close to your coach. And actually, something that's not talked about is the respect you have for the coach, right? Sometimes you get coaches which nobody respects. You kind of just say yes to him, right? And he just keeps talking. No one actually listens. But it really does look like he has a good relationship.
It seems this is why Astralis is looking so good inside of the Rift and outside of the Rift. As we jump into it, we were talking about the mid laner. We were talking about the rebrand of the rebrand, the Syncox. We need to look into Tempt as well, because this guy is a menace. He is ridiculously good, even though if you look into this, there you go, KDA, Tempt is in second. This guy is a beast.
Yeah, and especially his skill participation looks a lot like a jungler's or a support skill participation. 74.4%. I think Tempt, even though Korean, he's bringing a very LPL-ish Chinese style of play in the mid lane, where he really likes shoving in his wave, taking control of that lane, and then maybe diving one of his two very strong lanes, whether it's that bot lane or the top side of the map.
Yeah. Would it be correct to assume if Tempt takes at least 1-2 kills in mid lane, X7 have a big lead?
Yeah, he just runs with it. I think a big part of this, the fact that he is so good at running away with the game, is because he's such a complete player. Okay, my favorite thing to do in my free time when I'm prepping, right, is to actually scout their OPGGs. And it's really interesting. If you looked at Tempt and Chasey's OPGG, they play every single role. They actually, for example, Tempt played a game of Vi yesterday, and then after that he's playing Kalista AD carry, right? He is so complete, and that's probably why he knows how to play the map.
So that is really good. He knows how to make the entire map bleed. It doesn't matter.
I think one of the comparisons that we can throw to the ERLs and the LEC is probably Magifelix, where he made Challenger on every single different role in the game, and that makes you so knowledgeable about the strengths, but also the struggles of the particular role.
Yeah, he's been roaming so much with his jungler as well as soon as he gets some sort of lead. And then he approaches the top lane. Let's talk about the top laners, because this is your expertise. We have Carlson, we have Chasey. Tell me a little bit about this matchup.
They are very similar top laners. They actually have almost identical weaknesses as well. If you take a look at the top laners, I hate to say it, but I think Chasey is just a superior version of Carlson, right? A more complete one. I think Carlson is in the running for a potential superstar in the future, but I think he has some weaknesses around playing weak side and being gankable. Funnily enough, I think Chasey does the same, but I think Chasey has higher highs, right? I completely forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, that's essentially my point.
It's a good point to start with.
Yes.
I think the difference between the two is how the two teams will use them, right? So for Chasey, I feel like even though all of times he's forgotten on weak side, he's so strong individually that he doesn't necessarily need a bunch of resources or ward or vision from his team, whilst Carlson over in Spring would require a lot of that to stay alive in lane. I think from Spring to Summer, he has become such a more consistent top laner that it doesn't matter what kind of champion you'll put him on, where usually we see him on Gwens and Nars and GPs, Orns, something that can actually absorb pressure, but also be very useful later on in team fights. Whilst for Chasey, I think he has a lot more of a carry role for his team. The Jaces, the Fioras, the Camille's on the side lane.
So when we saw Astralis, they needed to deal with the top laner. It seems like today it's going to be the same. Do you expect the same result at the end of the day?
I definitely think top lane is the win condition of both teams, because I think that lane is going to be the most volatile, because I think both are prone to inting, right? I do think both, in almost every game, we're going to see one of the top lanes have a significant amount of deaths, depending on who plays around top lane the best.
Interesting.
The big importance here is because we've been saying Astralis are really good at getting a lot of the early game leads from the mid lane, Senkax. Then where Senkax chooses to go, that's up to him, whether it's diving bot lane and giving kills to Crispet or going towards the top side of the map like they did versus Riddle. And that's so important to mention for not only the coaching staff, but also the team that's executing in-game on the fact that they have recognized who their target is, and they didn't change the strategy, they just adapted into the details that they needed to play instead of bot side, top side, but the starting point remains the same.
We're still hoping for that 5 games today, as we want to understand where are you standing right now. So let's show the prediction from the chat itself. X7, Astralis, oi, it's running away. It is a lot of X7. Are we surprised?
Okay. We saw Excel versus Dusty, and it was 80% to Dusty and 20% to Excel, and then Excel ended up winning. So taking it from the Twitch chart, which I'm assuming this is where this is coming from.
It is.
You guys are jinxing games. Come on, step it up.
Do you agree with this?
I don't think it should be so strong. I think Astralis are definitely underrated coming into the series. I think they look decent, right? They had some really good games against Riddle. I think it should be maybe 60-40.
Okay, Trouble, by the way, you never done this before. I think you did it like once or twice. There's a little thing on that table. Can you smack it, please? Can you? There you go, champion select of the first game of the day. X7 versus Astralis. We're looking into teams that are running away or running towards their last spot for EU Masters and getting closer to the throne of the NLC. Champion select, finally, I get the prediction. You're the predictor, by the way. I know you like to predict champions, so I'm going to rely highly on you today as we're waiting for that champion select to pop off. Any sort of bans we should be looking out for?
I just don't remember which side both of these teams are playing for, because something that is really important is that if Astralis is on red side, I'd love to see them do, I'd love to see them do what G2 do, which leave R5 for their support. Targamas is such a huge roamer for G2, so getting the better counter, but getting the roamer, knowing exactly what he's playing against is so important, and Kiba is a huge key part to the early game aggression and the fact that he roams so much. So making sure he gets the better champion versus whatever X7 has picked, I think will be a huge benefit for Astralis.
Seems like they're trying to disable Taxer with those bans. Lee Sin is still available, but it could be one of those baits. With hexflash back, do we get to see Poppy again?
I definitely think it's going to be picked or banned, right? I'm looking at the OPs that are actually left available. There's still the Talia, there's still the Poppy, there's still the Zeri. Poppy's just been taken away now, so we're probably going to look at a handshake between Talia and potentially Zeri. There's also Sivir, which can go into that.
We're also, okay. That is a triple hit to Taxer right here. And we know there's also Wukong. So because X7 has the first pick, they could very easily snatch that Wukong away from Taxer, with something that he feels extremely comfortable on, and then push him further down the list on these champions.
There's still one left, which is like probably in like the second tier of junglers. There's still Xin Zhao for the early game, which Taxer could play.
And Jarvan.
And Jarvan, true, yeah, that you can use to facilitate. I actually expected this.
Very clever.
If you look at the Riddle picks and bans versus Astralis from yesterday, or sorry, the last week, Astralis actually banned Wukong every single game because they just did not want to go against it. And yeah, there's the Zeri handshake.
I'd say right now you do have a pretty good chance of giving Crispec the Twitch. Twitch has been a champion that has been shining over in the LEC. It won literally 3 times in a row over on Saturday last week, and it's one of Crispec's strongest champions.
Or Severe, potentially, because that's also the other handshake.
Sure, yeah.
The other
There you
handshake
go.
scaling pick. Twitch is also really good until I guess we won't know until it's locked.
Both options are good,
I
but
think Sivir
Sivir
makes more sense
Yeah.
because he scales, but it's also extremely undiveable. You're right. So having
It allows Kiba.
Having Kiba never been in lane, I think Chris Frank's
That's
like,
true.
you know what, guys, this is the safest option. I'm gonna get dived anyway.
Now, do they pick for Taxer or do they allow X7 to dive even deeper on
I
that champion
think
pool?
you're expecting to play versus a Talia right here,
Mhm.
so you need to start making these arrangements. If this gets locked in right here, I absolutely hate
I'm really worried.
for Astralis
I
because
agree.
this means Kiba stays in lane, Kiba plays for the 2 versus 2, and seen as if this is a Sivir, it's not a Samira, it's not a Kalista that wants to play in the early game, that wants to dominate that 2 versus 2. I'm actually disappointed that I won't see Kiba actually roam the map.
I would much prefer something like the Rakan or the Nautilus just to roam. Go leave lane, let them scale. And yeah, I think we're probably going to get to the Xin Zhao handshake. I think after that, you just go down way too low in the tiers of junglers.
And I think here a Jarvan into a Gnar for Chasey would make a huge impact in this team fight as well, creating these fake walls, and then the
No
Mega
Talia?
Gnar comes through.
No.
I think you can throw Talia further down because there's Swains, there's Lissandras, there's Ares, there's so many things. Renata also went through the picks and bans.
There's too many jungle bans, right? The role's been pinched too hard. If there's no Xin Zhao ban, they're not getting a jungler. They'll just ban Xin Zhao and then
They're getting no jungler, guys.
There's five junglers banned. You have to pick jungle here. Whether it's Xin Zhao, whether it's another pick, you need something, and he wants the early game facilitating.
I wonder. So we've seen, okay, the Xin Zhao is a really good call, obviously for the front to back, but I wonder right here if we're gonna see Talia being banned away and the second mid laner that they're gonna choose to ban away, because there's also Chasey, and you need to give either the counter pick to Senkax or Carlsen. Now, if we're looking into the champion pool, I feel like pretty much thinking what Tempt is going to play in the mid lane is going to be much easier for Senkax to pilot that, but not the same case for Carlsen when he's versus Chasey. So maybe banning away one mid lane and one top lane that you're mostly scared of would be the best choice here for Astralis.
So typically the second rotation bans indicate what you're going to blind pick on R4, right? So I think we're potentially looking at Azir bans for your blind pick mid lane. Maybe you're going to look for something like the Lissandra, right? Because Lissandra doesn't like being outranged early. I think Lissandra would be a really good pick. Or Talia potentially. I think Lissandra though would be a really good pick for Astralis because the best part about Lissandra to me is the fact that you can get perma-prio after level 6 no matter what. Essentially it's you concede versus Lissandra or you lose cleanse every time.
All right, so the Fiora gets banned right here, which brings a few question marks as to what Chasey is actually going for, but I will agree with you. I would think maybe an even better scenario would be a Swain to play around that Sivir, because you cannot get through the slows, and so far you've picked a Jarvan, you're most likely picking yet another melee coming in for Chasey. So to get into this backline, they'd have to work through a big fat Swain first. So I'm wondering right here, we see the Fiora.
Silas is open.
Silas is still open and available. There's not too many good ults to steal yet. Usually you're looking for like a Gnar, an Alistar, something like a Talia that has been picked on the other side of the map, but I'm personally expecting a Swain to pop up here.
Yeah, so the fact that Silas is still open to me indicates that it's probably not going to be Alessandro, because that's an awful matchup. You give away Alessandro, it's terrible. But I think potentially Silas is going to be picked by Tempt. The reason I keep bringing this up is because last series, his Silas was 1v9ing. It was absolutely crazy, so I'd expect to see that.
And also, if you look in the Swain that I've been raving about here, Silas is real happy stealing that ult away and using it to his strengths, right? So
potentially the Akali.
It would make a lot of sense. The Akali would.
I think we might see the
I'm
Akali.
the mid lane pick here because it's the safest option. But not the safest option, knowing that Lissandra is still in the game, is something that has been beaten Ari in lane. Tempt has also brought out LeBlanc and the likes of these
Silas as well.
Like to play the 1v1 into Ari. The Silas really likes to play the 1v1 into Ari.
There's a lot of replies. So finally they have to reveal the entire composition. There's someone in the studio really happy that Ari was picked. I just hope this is an Everfrost so he gets mad as we get to see Gnar onto the top side.
I just hope this is the Putrefier so he gets even more mad.
And that would be the cherry on the top of the cake as we finally need to see the last one. Eragon,
what is highlighting for you as the last one? There you go.
Lissandra.
It's Lissandra.
I was going to say, I really want Lissandra into Ahri. It stonewalls the lane, and I think it's just a perfect champion for this series for both teams. I really hope this picks up as the series goes on. That teams really need Lissandra in the series. It's super good.
This is a very classic game one of a best-of-5 series. We saw it versus Dusty versus JDXL. They were like testing the waters. They were playing very slow. They were playing for the scaling, because scaling always ends up winning at the very end. The front to back sort of scenarios. This one would make so much sense here, because yes, you lose to now, but you lose extremely gracefully. Now the thing is, what really worries me is that the Astralis blueprint is kind of broken. You can necessarily not play the 2 versus 2 into Lissandra and Jarvan. If Lissandra and Jarvan knock you down, they have so much CC among the two that they will delete you super quickly. So I feel like Senkax might actually, instead of being the one facilitated for, he might actually be the target for X7.
I see the personality of X7 on this draft. I don't quite see it on Astralis, so I have to make the question right now before we jump into the Summoners Rift. Who's going to take it?
I think X7 is going to take it. I really don't like Astralis' draft. I think you've drafted 2 side lanes, which are going to get pushed in. Actually, no, I guess Lulu Severe could potentially push, but you don't really have any playmaking in that lane, right? That's the problem I have. You take the Ahri, Xin Zhao, roam to the side lane, what are you going to do? You have nothing, right? So I much prefer X7's draft.
I think if Astralis managed to go into minute 20 or something without necessarily being about 5 to 7k behind, they do have chances. But seeing how proactive a lot of the champions are on the side of Hex7, I'm going to give the first one to them.
So you guys believe that the Twitch chat percentage is correct after the champion select?
Post-champ select, yes.
Post-champion select, it seems like the chat is correct. As we jump into the first game of the day, we're talking about 2 teams that want to go to EU Masters. At the end of the day, it's going to be decided. But let's start with the first one, Initialize. And Naimana, what do you have to say?
Quite a lot, actually. First off, apologies, guys on the desk. I know he was booing, but Fortune, his boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes him cheer. It's Medjai second on Ahri.
That's
and
very
it's
valid. It's very valid. Thing is, I find this so interesting, because one of the things I love about League of Legends is you can see a draft and have completely opposite takes.
Yes. I love what Astralis did with this draft, actually. I will justify this, right? Because for me, Ahri does not lose lane against any champion. You lose lane versus losing jungle matchup and losing support. I look at Sivir Lulu, that shoves in. I look at Xin Zhao, that can very much go toe-to-toe with Jarvan. Now, I think it is very risky. You fall behind in that matchup, things go horribly. But I look at this, I think Astralis can do what they've done throughout a lot of this split, which is give a lot of resources to mid, snowball that lane, and make the plays happen around that. I actually quite like what Astralis have got. So it's interesting to see that we're on opposite side of the fences here. We'll see who's right. We will indeed see who's right. The Astralis playbook remains in action for this game. But Tempt on the other side is a player who has made a career here in the NLC of being incredibly self-sufficient. But on to the Rift we go for our first game between X7 and Astralis. Our spring champions versus the Academy organization that crashed out in our first split. Can they redeem themselves? Can either of these teams redeem themselves as they make the run through the lower bracket for our final Amazon European Masters spots?
See, we're getting the LEC caster out of you. The narratives are all here.
Of course,
immediately, there's something I want to pick out here. Because you see on the carries of Astralis, there are cleanses. And this is also a spellbook cleanse Ahri. This is new tech. I say new tech. This is tech which Ahri has started taking into Lissandra. Even though I believe you can win that match very early on with electrocutes and play it very aggressively, if you go towards Spellbook and you have, your Cosmic Insight as a secondary rune, and you go for those Ionian Boots of Lucidity, your cleanse cooldown becomes so low. And those playmaking windows you're looking for with Renata ults, with Lissandra, get a lot lower. So I think Astralis, even with this, again, they're looking at this combo of the Jarvan and Lissandra and saying, okay, how do we stop this and play disengage later into this? Because if you get those cleanses up and you have an Ornalt playing blocker as well, I think Astralis have ways to peel back in a team fight and deal with this diving combo from X7.
Okay, well, let's put a spotlight in on that mid lane matchup while we have a chance. Both of them have had pretty damn good splits, but honestly, Tempt, look at those numbers. 756 DPM as a mid laner is a Herculean effort from the LCK import.
And that is a kill participation you would expect out of junglers. Now, in pre-show, the desk really did bring up a lot of Viking stats and said, this is not something which Viking has been doing. He's more been the scaffolding, right, to support these winning lanes. And winning lanes like this, when you have Temp putting up such big numbers, have been so critical to this team. So yeah, looking at this mid lane matchup, it does look like this is where the playmaking is on both sides. So very good to put the spotlight there.
We'll keep our eyes on it, and I suspect we'll be coming back here often enough as junglers and supports, and everything we've talked about in the pre-show likely comes to fruition. And while we've got this moment here as well, I'll take a moment to remind people we do have some hashtags. NLC Pets here. Jonesy's been exploring the new plant thanks to Levin. I do enjoy some good cat picks, and I'm hoping...
Okay, I'm glad we're setting the tone very early with this one. You know, we've got a serious narrative. Also, hey, can you show us your furry face?
Please do. We will love to see them, and keep an eye on this one is Astralis. X7 are apparently
what breed is that? What breed is that, Sam?
That is,
oh my God,
it's a breed of
flash on the
banter.
wall.
It's a breed of banter, and Tax is looking to prove that tweet. Oh, so right. We'll see whether X7 can respond. A handshake will keep away a flash now from Kasing. And Attila not quite gone down yet. Crispeg will spell shield, and Viking is here as well. Maybe we should have put the focus on the bot side as both players have a look down here. Flash down from Taxa, but it'll be traded for Kasing.
I don't know. Looks like this dog's biting the hand that feeds. Taxa comes down and, well, luckily doesn't feed this time. But with that, that's flash down. Of course, X7 will know that. Blast Cone hadn't spawned at this point. That's the only way he gets over that wall. They should be able to ping that. Viking has Prio in mid. Lyssandra's pushed in early because the Ahri hasn't had any resources. Tempter's going to walk up. It's not going to end up being able to crowd them out of the jungle too much. They're going to lose a blue buff for this. But this is something which Astralis have started to evolve past, right? In the regular season, they typically were being, again, the team which roams mid lane, uses that winning support matchup, uses winning jungle matchups to make sure that Senkux gets off on the right foot. This time, goes bot instead, and you can see that Senkux has evolved to this point now where he doesn't need all those resources, plays safely, and gets out safely.
Does indeed credit over to that, but of course, still X7 making things happen early on, and we did see a big shift, really, when the likes of Viking came in. We kind of had that chat about in the pre-game as well. This player has been a big, I don't know, spark, a catalyst for changes in X7, and while Astralis really impressed us, honestly, in their playoffs match against Riddle. It was a close series, don't get me wrong, but they turned it beyond what we were necessarily expecting, at least from us behind the scenes. They put up a strong fight, and now we've got a lot of analysts saying this could potentially be another very close series.
I think if you tuned in at the end of the regular season, you'd be right in thinking this would be an X7-sided affair. But actually, yeah, I agree. After the first round, I do genuinely feel like Astralis are going to come in and brawl in immediately. We do see that X7 starting to crowd off a couple of waves in this bot side, but Astralis not going to get punished beyond a couple of missed CS. I think this should be a very close affair too. Aragon called it a 3-2. I think it could be a 3-2 to X7 as well. I think that X7 are still coming in as a very scary team, but setting expectations, it's close, but I think it is still decided just on the side of our reigning champions.
Yeah, and to remind people of the expectations, Astralis again, throwing their own out.
You just wanted to press that again. You really wanted to make sure that we knew what was happening with the BM.
I love that spicy banter. We'll see whether X7 have anything to respond with as the series goes on, but it's nice to see that the Orgs are certainly ready and raring to go coming into this series.
See a little bit of tussle in the mid lane. Senkux actually did something which I love doing on Ahri there, where you actually use your charm at the end of the trade, particularly when you're against a lower late range champion like Lysandra. If you can charm a champion in early levels back into the minion wave, it just gives them an extra second or two of eating those minion autos. It can give you a nice extra bit of damage. And you can see again that these mid laners playing very closely off against each other. We did highlight that matchup right at the start of the game. You know, we could have looked towards so many of them, but it does feel like, again, the playmaking is around here. Taxa once again finding his way over here. And with Dragon now spawned, that mid-pro, of course, gives you that extra window to get through the wider corridor of that mid-lane bush into the river.
Indeed, there is. They don't use too much of it as yet, of course. See whether now with the level 6s coming through in the solo lanes, particularly, we start seeing a little more action there, and whether that ability to access the river and get those wider entrances in, as Myra was just talking about, becomes more relevant now that those bigger tools to make the engages and picks happen is on the table and available for both these teams.
So, yeah, we were looking to what could happen with these junglers very early on as well. Looked at Taxa and Viking looking to impact on these early game junglers, but I think it's testament to the defensive prowess of both of these teams that nothing has happened so overtly at this point. It has been about this kind of push and shove. Temps, what's he going to be able to blow out of here? That's a lot of damage immediately.
That's the cleanse. Won't throw too much more, but that is that summoner down. Does, of course, have the spellbook to get out, but that cleanse being down means a return gank is now very much on the card.
It also means that if Astralis look for a fight in the next minute or minute and a half while that ultimate is down from Lysandra, you're going to be down there. So actually fighting potential in the very short term is over to Astralis. It is about that return play, as you were saying. But with that being said, X7 not looking to immediately go towards the Dragon, not looking to immediately go elsewhere on the map. So that's not going to be as relevant. Looking back towards that mid lane.
Indeed, we are. And again, a reminder. Stakes on the line here are the final EU Masters spot. You win this series, you are in EU Masters. You get minimum third, minimum play-ins. You get a chance to go fight off against JDXL, who put on a great showing against Dusty, taking that game to five games against our expectations again. But potentially both these teams thinking, well, maybe with how they were looking towards the end of the split, we can even look to get towards the finals, win the split, get the mainstay spot. For X7, it would be a chance to retain their crown from Spring. For Astralis, it's a chance to redeem themselves from Spring. So much on the line here for both of these teams.
Yeah, so that's kind of like in the big, kind of very compelling side of things. On the other side of it, on a pragmatic side, looking at that upper bracket, the start of that, the teams there, I don't think are out of reach of these two. I think the winner of this series going up against JDXL, who won 5 games against Dusty, are looking at that series and saying, we could take that. I think that either of those teams, whoever ended up losing that, going up against these lower bracket teams, would have to be very, very wary. We are set for some very close series in the back end of this playoffs. Going back into the more of the game at hand, though, we haven't seen any early rotations towards the Herald just yet. Bot lanes have reset and the supports are thinking about heading up there, but it's not evolved into anything just yet. And some item completions will be on their way. First backs come in, gold's been spent. Neither team ready to pull the trigger just yet.
Astralis with very defensive control walls there to assume they've got access, or ensure, rather, they've got access into the river as Kiba has done what his old jungling self would have done and made a nice little rotation towards this mid lane as Tempt tries down the glacial path but won't take it. And Astralis can keep it back off for now.
So that's the kind of point where you were looking at that cleanse versus ult cooldown. The ult is now back up from Temp, so you have more fighting potential from X7. Don't have Merc Treads on Senkux, as we were saying. The tech for Ari into Lysandra now has been cooldown boots, which help you, again, get more summoners off of cooldown, because it affects summoner cooldown too, and also having that spell book. But the cleanse isn't back up yet. You're not ready to fight just yet.
No, you are not. And of course, hasn't used the spellbook to change that out to something else as yet. But Kasing now roamed up, and we've got ourselves a big fight. Kasing has got level 6, though. Hostile takeover is available. Wild growth is not. Huge advantage for X7 should they choose to fight this, though. Chasey, not a mega.
Now, it's a 5v4 because the AD carries are involved. Okay, right. So, Zeri down on bot side. Do X7 still choose to fight this? That Renata ult is so disgusting.
And think about it, down to 1800 and Smite of the way. X7 back off. Will leave Attila down to take some plates and not look to engage even with that level advantage. The discrepancy in numbers just too risky.
I think that's the correct decision. Tem's just fishing, especially with Astralis just managing to split up. Now, Astralis don't have vision into X7's jungle. X7 on the other side have managed to get a couple of wards here and there, and they're able to battle ward their way into the enemy jungle. Astralis playing safely enough for now.
Risky here, he's gone over the wall, doesn't have that many ways out. Flash from Key, but they're going to continue trying to chase, but here come the rest from Flash for Flash. But Tempt, not going to get too much. The hostile takeover used to try and dissuade any further action.
Okay, but while all this has happened, we're talking about those plates in bot side. That's 3. That's not even just your bog standard.
Nearly 4.
Well, very much there. Not going to be able to get it on this wave, I don't think, but Attila's already picked up solo plates. It's not even shared between him and a jungler or whatever. This is going to be a lot of gold.
Oh, wow.
That's that AD carry. And just from this set of plays, X7 just being able to delay and harass Astralis on their way back to allocating people down towards that bot lane wave, have lost out in the long trade. They're losing out in the Infernal Dragon as well. This is not patch 12.14, of course. You don't have the increased value on it for those who have been tracking some of the major regions which have switched over to that patch, but it's still getting that early objective. It's still getting ahead in gold. X7, in the metrics which we measure, are ahead.
Take this moment here as well to just check in with that bot lane, because both these players have been pretty key in those team fights. They're on 2 very expensive, dangerous hyper carries in the Zeri and the Sivir that do so much work at 3 items. You can see big numbers from both of them, if even Attila leading slightly here.
I really like the way that you call them expensive carries, because it's not a term that we use very much. I definitely agree with it, though. They are the correct carries. They want to be building up expensive items in the way that, of course, a lot of AD carries do. And these are also AD carries that really start to peak around 3 items. It's not even like your 1 to 2, which Jinx or Phelios kind of did. They peak a little later, but when they get to that point, they're so hard to take care of. And right back when Zeri was released, and heck, you know, one of the very first things I did this year when I was back onto the big studio broadcast was that Zeri Spotlight. One of the things which stuck out for me right then, right from the off, was Zeri doesn't always do the most damage, but you can never stop Zeri doing damage. Feels like Civ is in a very similar state right now too, where that Ricochet is doing so much work. So both these champions having a lot of that gold, you get to that 3 items, and with a slow game, you're expecting it to get more towards that point. Expect these AD carries to be a huge part of the late game.
Yeah, and serious credit to X7 there for tilting that matchup in the favor of their AD carry. You get so much alone time to get a 20 CS advantage, to get the 4 plates, and that Herald came at such a cost.
Once again, we see X7 being really proactive about making sure Chrisberg, that expensive build AD carry, can't get much done. Kiba,
it's rooted in place into the Cataclysm, nowhere to go. Remember, he flashed to get on top of Tent. Here comes Astralis, time to turn this one around, leave Tempt out to be charmed. Here come the rest of the turnaround, though. Tempt goes down, has got to bail up and no way to turn it out. And Astralis beginning to punish hostile takeover, prevent too much easy follow-up. Sencux has got 1 charge left, flashes forward for a charm! Into the double kill for the Ahri. Now with 1 more charge available, the reset in hand, Taxa stepping forward, handshake from Kasing, but he has to flash out, and Attila throwing out the burst fires, but nothing left to be done, and what was supposed to be a pick is swiftly punished.
That's a slick little misdirection from Sencux. Flashes around the target to get to his actual intended quarry. Astralis, they punish X7. X7 have been doing this for the last couple of minutes now. They've been just poking into the enemy, seeing what they can do about catching people in rotation. This is a big moment now because you've used a lot of your fighting tools, so you can't punish something like this. Herald being summoned in the mid lane, and while X7 on the passive kind of income, just slowly whittling down towers, slowly denying CS, work coming out ahead. The big power play, the first of the series, goes to Astralis.
Does indeed. Let's have a look at it again, because it looked like they've got a fantastic pick, but Kiba gets the wild growth, buys enough time, and then Sencux and Taxa are just here in time.
And also has the heal as the summoner spell. You know, as the heal cleanse from the bot lane, you don't have an ignite or exhaust, but it buys enough time. Kiba gets out with actually more than enough HP bar to spare. And this is really slick. So I really want to see what the... there you go. Really just like... gets it to cancel the ultimate as well. By the way, you can flash mid-ultimate charge from... that Ahri, slick stuff, gets the resets, knows no turnaround is coming through, and that's a very clean kill.
And the cinematics there as well. Beautiful stuff from our reservists to make that kill even more gorgeous. Of course, X7 still up about 2,000 gold here, despite the heroics there from Astralis. Off that first tower and off the advantage they've got elsewhere, so it's a step in the right direction, but do keep in mind that X7 are the ones still leading here, despite that.
They are, and of course that means that they get the AD carry itemization completed first. Attila gets all of those plates down bot side, and I believe that, well, it is the first tower, because Astralis haven't even taken one just yet. They whittled down the mid lane one well enough, but it's not finished. But not the only person to finish an item. That's the Leandri's on the Ahri, and that's an item which we're seeing a little bit more of. I don't dislike the item, but what I will say about this, because I've seen this so many times on the champion, you got to make sure you're hitting the right targets. If you're playing Leandri's, diving the backline isn't going to be so great. If you're hitting Jarvan, actually pretty good. And you can see in that last fight, when Jarvan or Lysandra is going in towards the Ahri, and she manages to kind of pin them in place, get a lot of damage over time, that's pretty good. You can start your ult off early, look for resets through, and just get burn over time onto multiple members. But you need to be very aware of the targets you are hitting. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Sencux has a fair amount of agency with the gold that they've been given, but with this build, needs to be very careful in target selection.
Yes, you do. And Cole's been cashed in for Chasey, as a reminder, and everyone else pretty much ahead in CS in the individual lanes. And that is a conversation we have had about X7, that what Viking has done for this team has been to help set up the lanes to do what they do best, which is just have better hands in some ways. And you can see it across the board there. It's paying into a lot of that advantage they've found in terms of the gold. It's just raw numbers.
Yeah, and numbers on the board right now, as you say, particularly in that bot lane, are getting a little bit worrying for Astralis, because Zeri and Sivir are fairly alike. They're both these champions which will kind of hit you through your front line, whether that's through the chain lightning and extended range of the burst fire from the Zeri, or whether it's the ricochet from the Sivir. Of course, we're not really at the point where the AD carries have just become this overwhelming damage threat. But where the AD carries are on the map, you're still looking for push pressure and objective control. X7 get the Zeri towards the top side of the map, take that Herald. Now Astralis have to worry where that's going to be put down, because if they're playing against pushing lanes and there's a Herald involved, you're not even going to be able to trade that for the early game objectives, the plates.
And of course, first Herald went away with Astralis, but X7 traded that for Drake, and Astralis here looking to do the same kind of deal on the other side. Dragon goes the way of Astralis early on. Tempt doing his best to hold on to this wave. I don't think he'll take that glacial path. The rest of Astralis looking to secure this mid lane tower that did get chunked out fairly heavily earlier. But here come the rest of X7. I think they want to fight this.
Not sure they're in a real place to. And again, this is the worry I have about X7 versus Astralis in this game, because I look at this conversation with Astralis have, and if you overreach, like we saw in that one fight we've had so far, Astralis have ways to disengage it, whether that is a charm into stopwatch or whatever, or the Ornn ult, which is being pulled out now. It's very dangerous to go too deep.
Tempt will flash, avoid the charm with a nice stop. Flash forward from Carlson, but he'll self-ult to keep himself alive for now. Doesn't have the ult remaining, and there's just nowhere to go. Tempt is deleted for a second time this game.
Oh, for a player who has been incredible on the defense to X7, Tempt is getting preyed on. Astralis, throughout so much of this split, have found ways to punish mid laners. They do it again in this series, and how important is it to do this right now?
Massive, massive stuff. A third kill, all of them on this Ahri, who's going towards a blighting duel second, looking for the early pen to back up that Liandry's and try and make sure can carry across multiple targets here.
And again, that makes sense. You're rarely going to get access to this area, and even if you do, there's going to be a Renata W onto them. It's just about choosing the right targets. If you are hitting the Merc Treads, Lissandra, or anyone on top side, very much help, but Crispo, he's going to get hit a couple of times by the X7 members.
Nowhere to go. First kill of the game for X7 goes the way of Chasey. Already getting quite ahead of his own lane opponent, but that is something nice on the board here. And Astralis, though, this mid lane push maybe can look to still retain control of the map and not lose too much off the back of losing their AD carry.
But what they've already started losing is a huge amount of vision. Look at that topside river, see them on screen right now, Vikings walking through it, and there's just a field of wards from X7. Even though the mid lane tower has gone down very early, so X7 don't have that to play around. X7 have got the wards in hand right now. And Astralis still haven't managed to get any wards over into the enemy jungle, really. They're playing off of an information deficit.
And of course, I'm still not entirely sure what wards are, you know? They're there to see vision. What are they made of is my real question. They just do things like maybe allow Viking to get out of danger here. The hostile taker comes through, but that will be a flash and double ultimate popped by X7 in trade for the 2 from Astralis in their jungle and support as well.
Yeah, not the combo they're really looking for. Because later into the game, you know, the hotbox combo becomes really important for knocking down those backline carries who just don't have any flashes. But right there, you're locking someone into it. You know, it doesn't actually do any extra damage when there's just the one person autoing. This does a lot of damage though. Ornn doing some work.
Tempt will self up, but remember, doesn't have many ways to go. Gets knocked up, knocked down. He's in a bounce house, has a bailout, but nowhere to go. A third death of the game for Tempt. Viking gets out of dodge. Senkux, though, still ult. Flash for the charm, goes wide. Still has one ult charge remaining. Senkux has been absolutely lethal on the Ahri, but yet doesn't quite land that one.
You know what? That is so close to his kill because of one really niche mechanic. Ahri's ult doesn't track if you don't have vision at the very, like somewhere in the middle of your jump. If you manage to flash into the bush right there, it's actually a chance that it ends up targeting and killing. Very, very close. And Senkux feeling himself this game. 3 kills on the board, and Astralis' team comp in that situation, showing once again, X7 cannot afford to misplay their dive. If they overstay, this comp from Astralis will really punish them.
And they hold on to this mid lane tower this time around. The core of the Forge God did so much work. And Tempt, again, is the sacrificial lamb. Ice Sculpture melts very swiftly under the sustained CC and damage that Astralis were able to bring out.
So going back towards that individual goal, the observers kindly showing us this. Well, one thing which we haven't talked about is what's happening in this top lane matchup, because actually Nuz not been that relevant. As much as pushing down those side lane towers has been a big part of playing out the vision game so far, it's not led to any team fight deficit. Nuz not been a big impact. Let's see how that one comes across later on.
Viking to the backside, he's trying to get able to tax it. Here comes Chasey as well with the Mega Gnar. Tempt goes golden, has got a stopwatch as well. Trying to get onto Taxa, who's about to go down. Ooh. Viking gets it with the Cataclysm. Carlson now caught in the middle, but Viking goes down. Those ricochets coming through. Charm onto Attila. He tries to flash for the wall, but can't spark Surge over. Astralis run over another team fight.
It's another one which X7, it feels like they're initiating, but just disrespecting how hard it is to reach their carries. They're not finding their mark on the initial part. And jungler or no, Astralis starting Baron just a minute after spawn.
Chasey teleports in, Kasinga's here, but it is a 2v4 stop, and there's no Mega Gnar for Chasey. Not for a long while. There's still an early Baron, though, so they need to hold on best they can. Astralis will land the charms. Polymorph pop away, though. Chasey now charging up the Mega. Throwing out the loyalty programs. Carlson being forced away. Tempt will have teleport in 10 seconds, and maybe, just maybe, they have overstayed. Okay. They will not stick around, and as a result, X7 stave off the Baron for now. But man, Astralis real hard
but
there.
the big thing right now is that this has messed up Astralis' recalls. They were on the Baron. They're not going to be here to defend the mid lane. Out of turret, they're going to lose a dragon too. Astralis kind of go for the high roll, but it's risky, and they are losing out in the objectives after that. X7 quick on the punish, keeping things interesting. They're still ahead in gold. They're keeping themselves up in these dragons too. It's only a Cloud Rift, but it's still very important when you are, again, trying to find that way to close the distance. Movement speed very much helps with that, but how dangerous is this getting at this point? Astralis once again proving how dangerous this composition is into X7s. And Temp once again being the target. You think after they kill off Tax, there's a great turnaround potential, but then just this damage afterwards, the ability to continue to deal damage, does so much work for Astralis, and the charm onto Attila? Beautiful stuff. Well, it's right into the Ornn ult as well. It's just CC as soon as the Call of the Forge God comes down. Attila is very much struggling after that point. Of course, Attila is at 2.5 items now. Remember what we were talking about? Any carries, 3 items. Things get a little dangerous. You catch Seri in that fight. If you don't catch him in the next one, maybe we'll be having a different story. But that's still yet to be proved. Astralis hitting their marks in the grouped fights so far. Eyes on Senkux again, though, because, I mean, he's got 2 items complete. He's got a needlessly large rod in inventory as well, so might be looking for Shadow Flame as Taxa steps forward onto Viking, but he'll find 3 members of X7, but here come the rest of Astralis to maybe make this a significantly more uneven fight. Viking will have a bailout, will try and trade this one back out. Does not quite get bailed out. Big growth onto Taxa keeps him alive. Golden goes Tempt, who does not have an ultimate available. He's caught on the back end of this, and they're just caught with Senkux going right back to full charges, and now with 3 members, including the jungler down, Astralis can turn back to Baron. And there's got to be Attila and Kasing pulling off heroics to stop this one. I mean, Taxa and Keeper have found the key to immortality. I don't know whether they've, like, uncovered a Philosopher's Stone. Not sure, but I'm looking at Taxa and Keeper in that fight. I'm like, oh my word, X7 cannot kill the first target. We've basically not seen Lissandra throws and thralls the entire game. Astralis playing the front to back so goddamn well. And now you have a Sivir who's online. You've got an Ahri that is going towards a death cap at 6-0-2. And my days, just look at this again. They cannot kill Taxa. Yeah, well, what happens after the key to immortality, the Philosopher's Stone, is the Chamber of Secrets. But this one's no secret. The Chamber's loaded, and it's loaded with another great Ornn ult. This Ornn is really disrupting things. The Lulu is really disrupting things. I think Tempt has a really good idea here. Just flash into that Xin Zhao ult, try and take down the jungler, but the calculation isn't quite there. You get that first kill, maybe Zeri gets a bit more space to do something, but X7, they are really struggling. Yeah, they did send X7 to the Death Chamber of Azkaban. Kept there for a few bits, maybe about a 3rd book length. Oh, maybe that's what the Renata J4 combo is. Maybe that's the Goblet of Fire. I'll see if they can rise from the ashes in this game, and okay. We're not doing a rise. There'll be like, I don't know, a cease and desist order of the Phoenix to make it stop shortly. Oh gosh. Well, not really a happy literary tale is this for X7, but for Astralis, it's getting gilded around the edges. This one's a book in hardback, and they're binding it with some ornaments because those Ornn items are coming through. Actually, the first one to get updated is Senkux's Liandry's. And now you're at the point where Ahri is so far ahead of the game, has a death cap on top of everything else. It doesn't actually matter who you're hitting at that point. And Senkux has been doing a great job of just finding the first target in the fight and just gunning them down at this point. Astralis really, really hitting it hard. Let's have a look in at Senkux at this point. Such a huge part of how this team plays. Involved in 75% of the team's first blood. Doesn't dialogue, gets involved in so many kills. This player has been on the up and up. And to do this versus Tempt, yes, with the assistance of the team, is fantastic news for Astralis in this series. I know, he's had a phenomenal game 1 so far. The playmaking, the ability to just know when you can punish someone out of position has been really on show. So, Astralis taking command of this one. Game's not done just yet, but you are looking at a whole lot of difficulty for X7 to try and play this out. They haven't found a way to flank in with something like Lissandra. They've been going straight down the middle of Astralis' team composition and really failing to land those knockout blows. The jungle is in front of Ahri. Chasey goes in, but can they turn this one around? Doing it again! Throw down a hostile takeover, but cannot kill anything! Sivir, though, does die! Wildcard wasn't who they needed to. Big double knockup, that means Chasey burning out. Senkux has to back away, though. Be a 1-for-1 as a heal from Keeper to give the team the movement speed to get out. Means that X7 can prevent the easy turnaround, but look at Attila, still thinking about following some attacks. If taking out Chasey, does TP, will be able to hop over the wall, and Astralis must be afraid. Ultra Shock laser slows down Carlson. I think Astralis will find themselves corralled.
Gets the charm onto the
Flash
Tiller.
away.
He stays alive. Shut down. Taxa is out on the other side, but Senkox must try and back out with Kiba. They'll take one more kill. I don't think they'll be able to get anything more as a charm. Prevents too easy a hop. But even so, Chasey hops forward, looking for another kill. Forces a stopwatch out of Senkox. They'll go an Ultra Shot Laser. Shut down. X7 are right back in it.
On Astralis, they overstay just the once. Chrisberg, of all people, is caught in the heroic engage from Chasey. Apparently, the definition of madness is do it again. Same thing, expecting different results. X7 might be mad, but they're geniuses while they're doing it.
Tell you what the difference is. They've got an Infinity Edge in Zeri's pocket this time. A certified Zeri moment. Courtesy of the LCK and the rest of them. It's gone straight to the certification board and it comes back with a 1-team fight and a soul point.
Well, he's got that item. He's got double buffs in Chrisberg. He's had a shocking couple of minutes if he dies for this one, but turning around as good as he gets.
Ooh. The empowered auto attack doing a lot of work, but now Attila is very deep and about to find himself on the wrong end of it. A Lulu potentially here. Tax is here as well. He has got the ability to get over the wall, but the wind becomes lightning, means there is an audacious charge available. Carlson's here alongside a teleport. Has Attila overstayed looking for the 1v1 play? Senkox just goes straight forward with the ultimate and shuts him down. Big overstep.
It's a story of 280 carries being caught out in pretty disastrous circumstances, one after the other. X7 finally find their engage in it. Catches onto Chrisberg so importantly, but right after, Tilla oversteps just a tiny bit.
Important to note that there are no objectives to take, so Attila's death doesn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things. The shutdown, that's big, but at least it doesn't lead to anything, for at least on X7's side, things like a Baron, right?
What it does mean is that you don't get to safely push out your lanes. You've lost your prio at this point, you're losing control of the map, and that is important, because that's something which X7 were doing very early into the game, and what we were saying is Astralis were not getting vision across the river. That is a lovely line slashed right across the map. Right from top river down to bot river, pretty much every jungle entrance covered besides the very top one by Astralis. They have information of what they want to do now. Have to defend it, of course, but when you don't have an enemy AD carry on the map, helping sweep, helping push, that is much easier to do.
Massively so. And of course, got a Wormfall and Sacrifice upgrade in Chrisberg's inventory as well. That upgraded Kraken Slayer doing a lot of work here as well. As long as he stays alive, cannot fall like he did in the last fight. And if X7 can kind of bait and switch where that wild growth goes, get onto that key target like Senkox, like Chrisberg, maybe they can find another fight like that, even if Astralis have felt largely like the more dangerous opponents in these fights across the game mostly.
And this is why gold can be so misleading as well. This is effectively even as it gets in terms of neutral objectives and into everything else, but these fights have been going Astralis' way.
Vikings to the back end, that hostile takeup's not going to find too much, and that's a very deep TP from Tempt, who'll get an ultimate, but he's now going to have to go golden as well afterwards, potentially. We'll be able to get over the wall, but overcome Astralis, try and punish.
That's the
cone's available, not the easiest to keep following up. They'll back out for now, but it does mean X7 down the TP and a few critical ultimates.
Yeah, couldn't quite do the Visit Chat. She snipe off of the blast cone, but once again, I love how this illustrates the point. The gold might be even, but X7, the way they are playing, where they're playing straight down the front, rather than being able to find flanks onto key targets, has been struggling so hard to make these team fights work. Now, X7 have a couple of angles to work with. Astralis pinned into the Baron pit. How does that help?
Eba has to heal. He's taken down very low. Overcomes Senkox, but at the back end goes Viking, keeping Chrisberg busy. Kim goes golden. So does Taxa afterwards. Chrisberg gets Viking, though. And what about the damage afterwards? Attila trying to stay alive. 2 for Chrisberg. Gets the ricochet. Ultra Shot makes it a 2 for 2, though. And Carlson was back out. Chrisberg already at 50 HP. If that, Attila has got an Immortal Shield button and goes right the way across the wall. Ultra Laser. It's not going to be matter as Team Tempt manages to get a Ring of Frost to murder him. Kiba taken out by the burst fire, and it's a full auto Zeri. Tempt and Attila do the work required, and they win the team fight.
You know the fastest object ever made by man? It was a probe that NASA flung into the sun at 180 kilometers a second. You know what the second fastest man-made object made by man is? This guy on your screen! Tell us stacks up so much across this fight, and we were waiting for those 80 carry item breakpoints. We kind of mentioned it in the early game. We talked about it a bit more, but then we just kind of sat down and said, well, you know, X7, they're not really getting through the front line. Whatever, gonna struggle at this point. But Zeri stays safe, and this crit damage, the W's flying in, has become a huge issue. We're getting to the point now where we had maybe assumed that X7 were going to be losing on the front to backs. It is not nearly as easy as that.
Absolutely so, and I'll tell you what, the Valorant is happening across the hall in this set of studios. And it feels like Attila has been given the team's whole economy budget. He's picked up every orb under the sun because he is popping heads left, right, and center right now.
Oh, and he's got himself almost up to that full build. Bloody hell, this is getting...
It's not even AP, and that's like 25% attack his HP bar. He's building tanky.
Oh, this is getting to become now a very even game. When I was so ready to just call it on Astralis to say, yep, that's it, front to back is working out for them, and well, it has still been getting close. If Seri gets to free fire, that is just way too much for them to deal with.
And Temp's now a threat again as well. He's found a flank angle, goes in, gets a stun onto Zenka to the Meganar. He'll go golden for now. Viking to the backside of the Christmas. Flashes away, but he stays alive for now. But not for long as a boulder toss squashes Severe flat. An X7 on a killing spree. X7 with an team fight win. And X7 will not be counted out. Astralis cannot convert their early game, cannot convert their leads, and cannot find a win in this first game.
Civet does not get to play these team fights. You have Temp going onto one of the carries, Viking finding his way onto the other, and this Jarvan is so high value against targets lacking that ability. This has been a late game battle between the AD carries, and Attila has stopped Astralis' hopes out when it looked so great for them.
Astralis bought the fire, but Attila brings the thunder. What a game from the veteran AD carry and X7 come out with a game 1 victory.
What a comeback! When they were sat down, they're pushing into that bot lane in a turret. I was sat there going, they're not going to find another engage. It's looking a bit rough for them. Starts off with, again, a pick onto Chrisberg. And Chrisberg, whenever that Sivir died in the late game, Astralis' team comp just could not match damage at that point. Seriously disciplined from X7 to come back. I was ready to call it, like I said, but X7 showing their class.
The moment the Infinity Edge comes through, they win a team fight, and it all goes on from there. Fantastic stuff from X7. Honestly, credit to Astralis as well, because that was a superb mid-lane performance for large portions of that. And of course, Tempt was out of that game. He was 0-4, 0-5, and yes, comes back into it, but Astralis had put him right on the ropes and looked like that game should have been theirs.
We promised a close series, so stick around for the rest of it.
I am really hoping so, but does mean we got to take a quick breather before we get more of this delicious action. And we'll go to some delicious people instead. Archeron, looking fine today. We'll take it away from here. Chomp.
Well, hello there. I don't know how to take this one, but this was an interesting game.
Today.
You do.
You know who doesn't? Astralis.
Astralis. Let's be honest. It started off as, wait, Astralis are doing a really good job dealing with them.
In the first half.
They did. And we were talking about the Ornn, and we were talking about every single matchup, and you kept saying, like, they'll outscale. It's fine.
So I actually think this game just didn't go the way that it should have. I don't know how else to word that, but every single time a team was strong, they lost. And then when a team was weak, they won. So you had the better scaling on Lulu, Sivir, Ornn, but they were losing mid to late. And then you had the better early from X7's comp, and they were losing early. So it just fell a bit backwards. Maybe this is some jitters, who knows?
They lost the Herald above all. Like, they had the team to fight for the Herald, and they lost the Herald to Astralis. This is something we're going to highlight because I was like, is this legal?
I think this is very important here to highlight as well when you have Lissandra, Gnar with ult, Cataclysm from Jarvan, Renata with ult. Like right there, Kasing enters that Rift Herald fight level 6 and it's level 5 on Kiba. That hostile takeover would be huge on a Sivir that's around and she has possibly also pressed the Ricochet active, right? So I feel what is very important for Astralis here and key to mention is the fact that they see Attila down the bot lane, so they know they're playing 4 versus 5 and they can take the numbers advantage into the river. While this is also very important for Astralis, right now they're losing the early game, they're about 2,000 gold in deficit, and that Rift Herald will bring them back a bunch of that gold that they've lost towards the top side of the map where Nari is actually bullying away the Ornn. So let's see this more of as an equalizer and an investment for the future for Astralis. But at the same time, Attila has done this so many times in the past where he's taken all the resources from the bot lane to gear up to carry later on.
I kept saying back when he was playing in Portugal, it was the 26-minute rule. And so far, it hasn't shaped that long because once he gets to late game, it's Attila on the late game. It's complicated to deal with him. But we need to look into Kiba and playing with the Lulu. Even though he wanted to roam, he got caught in the middle of the jungle. And we thought, well, there goes the Lulu. But she didn't win away.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, look, I don't want Astralis to be super down about this game. They did. I don't think they played early that badly, right? And I wouldn't want them to completely flip their draft because of this game. If they wanted to say, yeah, let's play a different style, that's okay, but not because of this game. I don't think they played that badly. I actually think the result of this game came about because of some individual like outplays from Tempt and Chasey. And I don't want them to hit the panic button yet.
And I feel like what's very important as well is that what Aragon mentioned as well, Astralis played really well on a completely different trajectory than we've seen them previously. Instead of going towards the top side of the map and giving the resources towards Carlsen, they felt that it was much easier, or not much easier, much more important. To shut down Attila, because you have two side carries. One is Chasey, the other one is Attila. But you see, once they got these kills onto Senkax's Ari, they started bleeding the pressure towards the bot side of the map, trying to get Crispberg to match the gold of Attila, shove Attila out of the team fights. And for so long, it actually worked.
And you kept talking about the way that the top laner made a few plays, and we saw Astralis overconfident yet again on the T2, on the bot side, not on the top side.
It's always a T2. Or top lane, man.
It's the curse turret. You cannot go versus that turret without a full lead.
I mean, the thing is, right, the reason it's always the tier 2 is because it's so tier 2s are so pivotal towards macro, right? They're worth the most amount of gold out of any turret in the game. It's like 550 plus 50 local gold each. Like, absolutely huge. So teams get baited by it, right? And then you see this absolutely insane Gnarl, right? Chasey hadn't really done that much all game, and then all of a sudden he's finding this insane individual outplay, and this is what we can always count on from X7. We highlighted the level of their individual performances constantly.
I think also the fact that the Mega Knight was also followed by Tempt, seeing Crispberg isolated on the side, it kind of put the panic button right there for the side of Astralis. But I will agree, I think the two Koreans from the side of X7 individually played really well in the team fight. And as you'll see here, there'll be like an extended chase where basically X7 are going to take down Astralis. But I feel like one of the most important takeaways of this game is the fact that we set as expectations Jarvan and Lissandra, heavy CC combo, heavy dive combo, heavy gun combo in the early game. Their target is Senkax on this Ari. They're going to shut him down. None of this happened. It was actually Senkax having a worry-free lane. He was actually, if anything, out of laning phase. He got out with 2 kills to his name, and he actually managed to snowball them through. I think it was X7 capitalizing and punishing small mistakes from Astralis, which shows you how strong they are as a team. Because even though we gave Astralis the scaling and the team fighting in the front to back, X7 managed to come back by punishing those individual missteps.
Yeah, and I can only reiterate what you're saying. I also don't think X7 potentially played towards their win con as best they could, but I'm really happy that they managed to salvage it.
So even though you told me they shouldn't change the blueprint they brought into the first game, should we see Kiba on a different sort of support?
I said I don't want them to change the blueprint because of that game, because they're panicking that they didn't play well that game. They played fine, but I still prefer Astralis with the blueprint of Kiba on roaming, facilitate mid into facilitating top as well. I like that a lot.
I think the problem is not necessarily Attila in general. I think it's Attila on Zeri as well. Because this champion, he's almost had a pentakill, if I'm not wrong. He's extremely dangerous on the champion. So if anything, get Kiba on a roaming champion, have Sivir onto Crispberg. He's undivable. He showed how he can play extremely safe, 1 versus 2. Attila is going to get the tower platings anyway, but you do need another side of the map to be twice as strong as whatever Eddie Carry Attila is piloting, so you can shut him down. And I felt like Senkax on that Ari all alone was not it, because Crispberg would misstep a lot of these fights, the Sivir would die early on, and just the Ari was just not enough to win the fights.
At this point, is Astralis chasing versus X7 that get themselves the first game of the day. And without further ado, we had a conversation with Kissing to understand what we could expect from this game and much more. Take a look.
At least we're in playoffs is one thing, because obviously during the beginning it was not looking likely, and if we had not made playoffs, especially with the roster that we had at the beginning, I didn't feel like, you know, this split would have just basically just been a failure. But I believe right now, ever since obviously Viking joined, it just feels like we're much more cohesive, which is kind of what Viking bring towards us. It's like stability in a way. And actually, you know, having some sort of foundation that we can work on. And yeah, I think right now, obviously my goal anyway, personally, is not only to win NLC again, but to actually do better than last split in EU Masters. I mean, I would say that our specialty is just, we have, in my opinion, probably the best laners in the NLC. When I say that, I mean like pretty much for top, mid, and bot lane. Maybe not for me because obviously I've had a lot, quite some blunders. I was ill, okay, for the Singularity game. But I do feel like me and Attila will show up a lot, especially if we were to make it to E-Masters. So obviously I'm just taking it one game at a time, right? My focus is obviously still on Astralis, and I don't expect it to be like a free win or anything like that because I think the NLC level has actually improved overall. Just it's more about us being more on the same page, and obviously because we haven't been playing the whole split, right? We've only been playing like for a month and a half now. And I think, you know what? Considering 1 month and a half of practice, I think we've shown quite good results. My personal expectation is actually it'll kind of test us playing together as a team in terms of like 5v5 and team fighting. Because I believe Astralis as a team like to team fight a lot. And there's always going to be a team fight no matter how you see it, right? Against Astralis. Like they will kind of contest you. They will contest you on objectives that make you kind of play good. Because if you don't play good, they will win. It's kind of like what they did against Riddle, right? Riddle technically were looking really good. But then, you know what? Astralis just started playing better as a team. And you can tell in the team fights, you know, especially like with Senkux. He was like a monster in most of the fights from what I saw. Like always positioned well. And not to mention the bot lane also seemed quite good too, with Astralis with Kiba. So I think it will be a closer match actually than like just a 3-0 stomp. Obviously I would like to say, hey, we're gonna go 3-0, we're gonna smash them, whatever. But you know, I think realistically, I think it'll probably be 3-1, maybe even 3-2, but we'll see. Well, I'd like to say, you know, like every year, I would say, I would like to win the European Masters for the NLC at least once, because at least it's kind of like something that you can always, you know, have with you. And obviously being a representative of the UK and Nordic region, whatever, but mainly the UK, like I feel it's kind of like a nationalistic pride kind of thing. And maybe it's just me because in the UK, this is like a big thing in terms of like just, you know, winning for your region. So that's kind of like my goal anyway. But let's see. Maybe we lose to Astralis 0-3 and then...
I'm just going to say, both Attila and Kasing have said the same thing. I'm just going to say, both Attila and Kasing have played in the Superliga for the longest time. And now they want to win from the NLC. That also shows what the major region is when it comes to European Masters. So it's the NLC, boys. Let's go.
I understand it. But if you want to win EU Masters, we need to get to finals, though.
Very true.
Very true.
There's one hurdle, and it's red. And it's Danish.
Now, it's a good start for the X7. We are talking about Astralis now changing the way they play, but I want to get your feedback on X7. Is there anything they need to change? Because it seemed a little bit confusing throughout the beginning of the game, but they got that late game team fight. So what can we expect from X7 side?
I think I'll agree with Aragon on what he said. I think they need to identify their win conditions in the early game much better. The fact that they had Jarvan and Lissandra, we've seen Jarvan's hell. We saw Haru, who was in the NLC over in the LEC, taking that Jarvan and actually ganking from level 2, level 3, literally red buff into a gank. And I felt like Viking was a little bit quiet in that early game, especially since you have so much setup in that mid lane with Lissandra. You can flash and W, lock in the Ari, take that cleanse early on, follow with the flag and drag, take the flash in the same gank, and then it's kind of like rinse and repeat. So I'd like a little bit more proactivity and link up between the mid jungle duo of X7.
I think we can also mention the fact that Tempt actually got his flash blown a couple times.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little bit on him. Maybe they can't actually set up the
Flash
play.
blown is a little bit of an understatement because he left the laning phase with 0 and 5.
Yeah, but like you can't. It's harder to be proactive with the Lissandra Jarvan combo when you don't have flash, right? So maybe Tempt actually has to step it up a little bit in the early game. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, the chat knows because on the previous one, you guys got it correct. Even though the percentage was kind of wild,
90.
you still got it correct. Give it to me. What's happening right now with you guys? Oh, wait. Oh, single digit for the first time.
Wait, hold on, man. Astralis showed up.
Yeah.
They showed off in the early game. Okay, a few mistakes and they lost the game. And it went even wilder.
I think those 9% is like Duckling and Goldberg.
That is literally just duckling and Goldball.
Yeah,
Yes.
making
And-
multiple accounts.
I was about to say on the
For Denmark.
accounts.
Are you guys okay? Yeah, so...
If anything, because Goldball has left us for the LFL, that could just be duckling on his accounts.
By the way, shout out to Duckling. You're not here today to cheer for the Astralis, but we miss you. We don't want you here, but we miss you nonetheless, okay? Well, let's jump into Champion Select. There you go. Second one of the day. Let's start this one. Astralis on the blue side.
Okay, so I don't know if I like this more, but due to the fact that Astralis were willing to not put Kiba onto a roaming support and mostly put him onto a laning support, if you're gonna go for that front to back that we saw, very low impact early game kind of team fighting composition for late game, I'd rather you have blue side. So you get that first pick, that juicy B1 that could be the Zeri this time for the sort of Chrisberg, right? What really worries me right here though is that Chasey will be able to get counterpick, Tempt will be able to get counterpick from this side, and that will be a little bit worrisome for Carlson and Senkak. Saying that though, that was the case in game 1, and it wasn't necessarily used to the best advantages in the early game 4x7.
So what I'm actually looking for here is like what they're changing with going to blue side. So when you go to blue side, you get earlier picks, right? You get B1 first pick. So what power pick are you actually looking for? Maybe
Zeri.
Maybe Carlson wants the Gnar, right? Maybe he's like, you know what? I don't want this on. I want to have my own agency. Maybe I want the Gnar. Maybe they want another power pick like Poppy or Talia, you know, this sort of thing. So that's probably what they're looking for.
So I wonder right here, because X7 banned 3 junglers. It was the Trundle, the Viego, and the Poppy from blue side. Right here, they've opted into banning the Wukong instead. Oh, sorry, the Lee Sin, not the Poppy. And right here, Lee Sin's up for grabs, Viego's up for grabs, Trundle's up for grabs, and if anything, Trundle and Lee Sin have been Tax's most prominent junglers and extremely active in the early game as well.
The top tier AD carries right now are Zeri and Severe. And Zeri's banned. If Severe doesn't get pinched, I personally think it's first pick worthy. Maybe they're okay to give it to X7. But I'd imagine... Okay, so they've actually banned Attila's Draven. Severe is the best AD carry up right now. It's not even close. I think there's probably going to be a Severe and Twitch handshake potentially, but I don't think you can let Severe go past B1.
So that could be the pick for Astralis to begin with. Let's see if this is going to be the third jungler.
Also, Renata has been up for grabs and very contested as a B1, and Kiba is one of the most fantastic Renatas that we have in the league. So if Renata doesn't get banned out here, which he doesn't, it's 3 picks again versus Taxa. I'd say you insta-lock Renata and then you handshake between the Twitch and the Severe later on in laning phase, right? And you also get a more prominent jungler for Taxa, whether that's the Trundle or the Viego.
I actually agree with this Lee Sin ban. I think Taxa's such a beast on it, right? Like the Taxa Lee Sin.
Even though he doesn't press smite on the
Okay, true, but the Taxa Lee Sin's a meme to me, right? Because in solo queue he plays Lee Sin every time and he's amazing as the Severe first pick.
So there you go. You allow the Renata or maybe the Twitch to follow this one through. It should be the Twitch just to make sure. Or do you go for another pick and then you pick
Twitch
the
is the only real handshake scaling lane. You also have Seraphine or Aphelios. I'm not the biggest fan of Aphelios. It's good. It's handshake scaling, but I think there are better options.
I really like the Twitch if they were willing to go with something like an Ornn and a Renata, which is what we saw over at the LEC. Fellows can work in the same sentiment as well as you hyperscale into the late game and you pretty much match the Severe when it comes to damage. Now, I would be very disappointed if I didn't see the Renata going away because it's one of the strongest pairings to any AD carry pretty much in the bot lane. Something that I would like to see though is Kiba on a roaming champion. Just leave that Severe down in the bot lane and start roaming the map. Again, it's not about the kills, it's about the pressure you exert. It's about putting Viking and Tempt under a timer and always having them aware.
So now what we're probably going to see is either a blind pick top laner because you really value not getting pinched, plus jungle match. That's what I would imagine. Because there are supports haven't been pinched, right? So you could probably let it go to phase 2. Unless you really want the Nautilus or something into the Aphelios. There's no way this is real.
It is. I'm sorry, it is.
That was my prep. I just threw it out the window.
So it is lock-in. The Kench isn't benched. As maybe can rotate somehow. I don't know. He tried to do it with the Lulu. Maybe he can make it work with the Tom Kench and the Gnar.
His Lulu was stellar. He was pressing his shield buttons and his knockups really beautifully.
So you don't even go for the jungler.
The thing of beauty about Kiba is his pressure on the map when he literally roams since level 2 towards mid lane. And right here, he can do that with the Tam Kench. It's not like a Lulu, you can be more aggressive, you have the Abyssal Dive from earlier on. And right here, I really like the takeaway. from Carlsen, because Cataclysm plus Gnar ult is a very lethal combo and you need to take this away.
Trouble. If he doesn't rotate that much on these series, do you take him out of MVP?
No, I won't.
Just wondering.
Okay, so one interesting thing about Gangplank into Gnar, and of course you will know, but I had a chat with Genax, right? And he told me usually Gangplank really shoves in Gnar in the early game. He's an absolute bully, although here in the NLC, we've seen Gnars bully the Gangplank around in the early game. And he told me that is due to the level of the Gangplanks in the league. The better the Gangplank is, the more he can abuse the matchup. So I would really love to keep an eye on how this matchup actually goes in game, now that it's Carlsen on the Gnar and actually Chasey on the Gangplank.
So I actually think we might see this matchup go more of the way of a higher level, a higher level, because these two are probably some of the better mechanical top laners in the league. I agree with you. Usually what we should see is Gangplank pushing in the Gnar, getting those grass procs, getting level advantage and securing the push early. And what happens is typically Gnar will get more range and then slowly start outscaling the Gangplank a little bit, in the 1v1 side.
Now, I don't mind the Zinzao again here because the temper pool has been pinched again for Taxa. But what about that Sensuani though? What about that long range engage, that tank? If I'm not wrong, we saw it in the JDXL series coming out from the side of XL. And it looked pretty good. And when you have like Megana, it hits really well with the passive as well, right? And I cannot fathom the fact that Renata has actually dropped to R4.
I think I prefer the Zinzao here. I think Sejuani's okay. I think a lot of the power from the Sejuani in the last series we saw was actually that it was picked as a flex, right? In R4, we thought maybe it would be top lane blind with the AD jungle or something like this, but then it was flexed to the jungle. I think I prefer the Zinzao for more early game skirmishing around mid lane. I think that's their identity, right? So I also think that Sejuani and Zinzao into Renata. I don't know how Renata's made it this far, by the way. She has so much power as disengage.
He didn't die the previous time he played the Azir, and he was a menace.
You need active lane on the side of X7. Like, you really badly need an active lane so the Jarvan can play through that. I really hope we see tempts LeBlanc here. He does so well into Azir. Something like an Akali post level 6 also has kill threat onto the Azir. Or you can pretty easily go towards something like the Swain that he's gravitated towards a lot. Okay, we're gonna see. We're gonna flip the coin completely. Now it's Carlsen on the Gnar over Chasey, and it's Tempt on the Ahri over Senka.
I think we're just gonna see Ahri almost every game. Is the staple push mid, roam side lanes. I really do think that both these mids really like the pick, and it fits their teams really well.
So Trouble, tell me, after watching what we have right now on the screen, who's gonna take it on this one?
This is very difficult, man. I just really like, again, X7 have gotten really good picks. They've got the global after level 6. They can impact the map. They've got Jarvan. Whenever I see Jarvan, I'm thinking level 2 ganks. And I really honestly hope that we see the Dusty Viking coming into this particular playoff series. The much more proactive, the much more carry potential Viking to just start getting that early game going, because we saw that what that Ahri could do in the hands of Senkax once he got 2 kills, and Tempt can do more and even worse.
X7 for you then. Ooh. Almost lost it. Oh, what about you?
I think it's really hard for me to say. I think I'd prefer X7 as well. I don't like how little proactivity they have again. Yeah, I'm going to go with X7.
So Twitch chat is correct yet again?
Yes.
Seems like it. So we're going to toss it to the second game of the day. And if you look into X7, they only have one source of reliable magical damage. It is Ahri. It has to be a Ludens, right? It has to.
Or a Putrefier.
He literally just went to me, it's a burst Ahri game, before you threw it. So Ishram knows exactly. He's been indoctrinated as well. Is anybody left sane in the building?
I am so sorry to everyone who has to watch specifically me casting Ahri games, because it is always going to be something I talk about. Now, it's kind of sad, because I know it won't happen. Teams just really love the reliability of something like an Everfrost, the extra setup. And in fairness, this Con from X is all about setup and backline access. It is about, can I reach that Sivir? I have a Jarvan that is going to go dunk on them. We've got the Renata ult, which can go over them too. GP ult, which will help with everything. This whole comp is, how sad can we make this Sivir be? Because that was a huge factor of last game too.
Can Chrisberg stay alive? The question was must ask as we head onto the Rift for Game 2. X7 lead the series 1-0, but my God, did Astralis make them work for it in the mid-game last time around? They'll be looking to even this one up.
Honestly, if I was Astralis, I'd be feeling pretty bad about Game 1, honestly, a little bit. Now, I'm sure that they've had a chat after that first game and said, look, let's just chill out.
It's a best of 5. If it was a best of 1, you walk away and you think, crap, could have taken that one. In a best of 5, you have a chance to show it up again, but in this game, at least you have the Tom Kench to be helping out the Civet. I'm really looking at what Keeper can do for that Civet.
Every member of Astralis here. There is a 5-man gang looking for a level 1 play. Be very, very afraid. And Deb's like, I am out of here. He will be spotting out the whole of Astralis, going on a bit of a tour of X7's blue side jungle. There is no return ward quite yet.
Is that like pentakill coming to a blue side, coming to blue side jungle? That's their first tour day. Spending 3 nights in blue side jungle. Gonna stop off at mid tower.
Blue buff selling out fast. No jungle buff, no entry.
Those of you that live in the top lane area, come buy tickets to our show.
Oh, teleport's coming at a premium these days, I tell you. Summer holiday trip prices, nightmare. I've now suddenly started thinking about the economics of Summoner's Rift travel and transport. Perhaps on a more appropriate
Oh my god, can we get a
note.
Torbus Bard skin?
No, it feels more and more like, you know, like a Ghibli skin. I mean, Bard is basically a
the
Ghibli
cat
character.
bus.
Yes,
Yeah,
Bard bus.
great.
Exactly.
Bard bus.
I mean, maybe Tom Kench gets
He is effectively a Ghibli. That's effectively his whole aesthetic. But going to be shuttling in minions into the enemy turret is going to be Senkux very early into this matchup. When you put down those soldiers, you often can get the early shove in on the first wave. What you're trying to do as Ari in this match is you are trying to take those hard electrocute trades if you see the Azir misposition. But if you have to walk around on what's going to happen...
Oh, Viking.
Those, okay, I was about to finish off that point. I'm like, hang on a second, that's a red buff on Viking. What's he doing here?
So he went from level 2. He's going to come and try and get over towards this blue buff, which was stolen away by Taxa. And of course, he can still look to make an early play towards this bot side because he can basically buff, but he can try and get to the level 3 off this Grop. Actually, I don't think he'll get it because he's only taken 1 camp before this. So maybe just have to look for a level 2 gank.
But the ward's timed out, so he's still not spotted either way. What the real importance of this is that he's gone untracked, right? I mean, he's going to be a camp behind because, of course, there was the steal coming out of Astralis, but it is still a way for him to reverse clear. And what this does mean is that often when you start top to bot, the entirety of the game after that point, you're clearing jungles in that direction, top side to bot side. By doing this, effectively, you're reverse clearing, where this is where you're kind of like switching your pathing up midway through it. It loses you some time on first clear, but it means on your second and third ones after that point, you want it means you can focus on different places after this point. But he's not here for top lane. Tax has got onto Chasey.
Does have an audacious charge, starts to try and stack up that 3 Talon strike and forces the flash to prevent that. Viking will be around to try and fight for this Scuttle Crab, though, and I want to see how this goes.
Let's look what Prio happens. Also, there's no red buff on Taxa. He's lacking damage.
This could hurt. We'll get a smite off trying to do it. That means Viking secures it. Chasey comes over with a parlay flash from Taxa to get a 3 Talon strike knocker. He's got nowhere to go. Viking flashes full, can't quite secure it.
Red buff?
The red buff burn is not quite there. Survives on practically nothing.
He's dead to an E. What's happening with Viking's cooldowns?
It's got to be so damn close. What's happening to the bot side? Observers, please take us back towards the north end of this. Actually, never mind, because the Kazin goes in for the knocker. What about the Vessel Dive afterwards? They know what they're doing. The Observers smurfing their way towards us. Attila with a flash for the Binding Eclipse and first blood in the bot side. Attila maraud straight over. He'll make Genghis proud this time as Attila tries his very best to hold on. And he'll get out for now. It's another route.
Such a disaster.
Another kill. Attila with 2 kills to his name.
Attila is not content with just ruining game 1 for Astralis with his late game Zeri. He comes out at 2v2 and gets a double kill in the 2v2. This is something that people say about LPL bot lanes all the time. You see jungler somewhere on the map, let's go, we're all inning. And this is, well, we didn't get to see all of it, right? Get to come back into this again. And this is just stepping up into Aphelios with the 3-weapon switch. This is something that we saw a lot from Azator in spring, actually, from Naruki's bot lane. What you end up doing is use the last of your ammunition on one weapon, spam it, run out of it, and switch through to something else. Comes through and Kasing with that loyalty program utterly saves the day for the turnaround.
Worth every penny to join in with that business. Those stocks paying dividends.
Industries.
Oh, doing so well. 2-0 already. And this is a bot lane we had questions about in lane. We said, look, Kasing and Attila, not known, at least individually, for their laning prowess. We saw a lot of mistakes.
Specifically in TVTs, yeah.
Exactly, some over-aggression. This time around, though, it earns them a massive advantage early on. We'll see whether they can continue to deliver, as Kiba has done what Kiba does, which is roam early on to try and affect mid lane.
What can you really do here? W's coming way about. 10 might be forced to flash, but dodges the slow.
We'll get a little bit stacked on, but with that dodge of the tongue lash, we'll only get away with some harsh words from Tarn Kench, who's wagging his finger at Ari in a threatening manner. Tongue lashing, see?
I'm not even gonna like deign that with a response.
Probably wise.
This is Tempt again, showcasing one of his main strengths as a player, which is just it's very hard to rock Tempt. Last game, Astralis had a pretty good crack at it. Gave him a couple of deaths in unfortunate circumstances, but on the whole, Tempt makes you really work to push this guy down in lane and buys him time from Keeper. Now, Viking has got his flag drag back, got through that combo. Tempt is bot side, he's level 6, and Chrisberg, once again, is forced off of tower. X7 are getting, I'm not going to say artificial advantages, but they're really forcing the issue into this bot lane and saying, you are not getting to lane for free, and Astralis mid-jungle are unable to respond.
And that's always been the danger with Sivir. If she gets to lane for free, then you have a problem. This is really good work from X7. Exactly. Shout out Gregors, who's given us all that info. One of the old UK scene AD carries who loved the lethality on that champion back when that was a thing. Of course, now with the rework, back towards crit. And I do want to make this opportunity perhaps to talk about Viking, but more in the sense of X7, how they were doing before he came in and after, because it is a night and day difference. Even if the numbers individually for Viking aren't that impressive, the teams have been so much better with him involved.
Haven't lost a game with Viking yet. Well, Chasey wishes Viking
against Bifrost, they lost 1.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Well, Chasey, either way, Chasey would love to have Viking here,
his numbers get a little bit ruined.
Oops. But, yeah, I mean, speaking of what Viking has done this game, though, like, it's not obviously been the most flashy stuff just yet, but right there in that bot side play, just making sure that Chrisberg can't get access to that farm. It's very important. That does rack up. We saw what happened last game when it came down to AD carries in the late game. Anything you're denying from these late game carries when you're getting towards their team fights means so much. When you have Sivir, Zeri, Aphelios on the table, that's always going to be a factor.
Does very well. And I'll take this moment as well to redress some issues from the first game. To Duckling out there, hashtag NLC pets. This is Charlie. He's enjoying watching Dusty vs JDXL. Was last week, of course, in that one, but more excited to watch Astralis stomp X7 on Wednesday. Another tweet with some of these Astralis fire memes coming out, this time Duckling throwing out his flags to the traders. Nice attempt there on the sweep from Sengus. Won't quite work. Attempt pulls the ultimate in trade. Doesn't have a lot of mana left, but can still look to try and trade out pretty well as Kasing comes in with a handshake to prevent too much of an easy follow-up.
It's just making sure, because like those plays are unlikely to lead to kills, but it's just making sure you're making the enemy mid laner's life inconvenient and you're getting to a point where you can really start doing a lot of work on those towers and those mini-waves.
I appreciate the fact we bring up the Danish fans tweet and suddenly the Danish players make a play. There's maybe a little bit of something going on there. As Taxa starts up the early Herald here as well.
Yeah, well, Taxa won't have Senkux in lane to help him. He's triggering that recall right now. On the other side, Tempt, gone for cooldown boots. Has picked up a Dark Seal though, so we'll see what happens if there are a couple of early kills. I am a big fan of stacking Dark Seal stacks into...
I've never mentioned that to you.
I've never mentioned that before on broadcast. And I've never mentioned the fact that Magi Soul Stealer is a core item in RA, should be built very early into every game because it's a very good snowball item. But anything less of that, because that won't happen, surely. But the Dark Seal is there on Tempt, and having those cooldown boots means, of course, you're going to have access to a couple more ultimates. Did have those boots built up for that ultimate usage just before, so that's going to affect that cooldown coming back.
Does indeed. It means he doesn't have it for this Herald fight should it come to pass, and Astralis thinking about coming over to contest, but it is right now a 4v3.
Let's see how they contest this choke point. This is normally very difficult to walk through, but Astralis managed to get through it.
Does get a decent handshake down. Chasey doesn't really land the barrel charm, but a big charm on attacks to return makes this one difficult. Viking goes in, gets a cataclysm and a kill. Tempt burning down for staying alive. Viking has to flash, but Attila is here with red and white. The Severin Crescendo means some options. With a big Mega Nara to the wall means Viking's in trouble. But what about that Moonlight Vigil? Attila picks up his third, and the Blender is truly in action. He is shredding Chrisberg, who can walk no further. A 2-for-1 in favor of X7. And they get the Herald to boot as well as Tempt steps forward, but it's actually pretty low on HP. That needs to be very afraid. No heal on Attila. Flash forward, not quite enough. Has to heal back out from Chrisberg, who burns both summoners. Sanko stepping forward. Attila has got himself Gravitum thrown down with that Sentinel turret. And they'll get out alive. My God, Chrisberg saw it, but couldn't quite secure it with the ricochet.
What the heck? Right. What the hell happened to Herald during all of that?
It went over to... Did it not get picked up?
Wait, hang on a second.
What?
I was so focused on what was happening with that choke point, I was really struggling to...
Did they not pick it up?
We might see this in the replay. What happens with this? Right, so this is what I was really focused on, right? Because going through this thin point against Renata and Ari gets really difficult, right? So Viking gets this.
He does.
Oh, he commits to the fight. He doesn't pick it up. Okay, well, there you go. Mission solved, I guess. Mystery solved. But this is a real mess, right? Because I feel like X7, they peeled off of the fight because they knew that was the point to fight, but it's just a second or two late to defend the choke point that they really wanted to. They kind of bailed out, of course, by Attila coming in with a huge Moonlight Visual as well. That one, of course, stacking up Chakram so quickly. And, oh, yes, picks up that third, as you said. So X7 win out in the overall play, but not getting that Herald, it kind of sucks. You would love to have accelerated your AD carry even further with that.
Bring this graphic up again because we brought it up and it's again coming true. Attila getting the advantage in a matchup that often is very, very pivotal. You can see some of the discrepancy there in terms of the CS and the damage per minute. It showed in the first game, but that's this game and the last has been off X7 setting up Attila for success, and he's been delivering for the team.
It's not even 26 minutes yet. It's not even Artrom's Attila 26-minute rule. It's
26 seconds.
Will not need that amount of time to take down HP bars in late game fights. Let me tell you, he's got so much gold in this, and once again, it's going to be such a big
Gale Force already
factor. And when you look at this kind of team comp as well, this is something which, okay, seeing anything is happening mid lane.
Wondered that as well.
With Viking looking there, but no. But yeah, this is something that Misfits do really well up in the LEC. What they end up using Aphelios for is kind of like pseudo backline dive, where you just kind of chuck an ultimate in there and hope for the best. But when Aphelios gets so much damage, you get to impact fights really, really well. You can see once again, he's got a lot of utility. He can very much like mess with this bot lane.
There goes the shield. Oh. Nowhere to go. Viking's got an option. It's a double kill already to Attila. I think Viking might be the sacrificial lamb. There is nowhere for the Prince to go. He'll get bailed out, but there's just not enough damage to kill someone else off. Keep alive at the top side, though. Chasey and Carlson trading out the cannon barrage being used towards the bot side means there's not a lot for the Pirate to do. But onto Mininar they go, but there'll be a boomerang coming right back, and Chasey dies on the bot side, though. Senkirk's burning down, gets a shield from Shifting Sands, flash for an auto. Kazing brings him down, goes golden. And X7 outplay everything in the bot lane.
Everything is about this 2v2. 6-0 1 in 12 minutes. Tilla's getting a kill every other minute. He's on an absolute rampage. Again, not content to just leave it at that game 1 late game performance. He's taking over game 2 from the start.
Well, that is quite the performance so far on the Aphelios. Can go back, picks up full boots, and I will be a little terrified to see what he picks up when he gets back. We'll go to the replay and hold our breath.
Okay,
Let's see this again.
You know what? This could be any one of like 3 different plays which happen. We go right back to the start of this dive where you see that the Aphelios has really good quick burst utility weapons, not even items, those ones, right? Viking gets caught out a little bit behind enemy lines, but even with this, it just kind of keeps Astralis in the fight, and they don't want to give up this much territory. They do see on the other side that there's another wave coming in, and at this point, I think you'd be fairly okay to say, you know, the fight's over, but you hadn't even used the Moonlight Vigil at that point, and Tenka goes just a little too far. The amount of tools which X7 managed to escape the initial dive from is really high, and I don't think Astralis expected that.
That's more plates over, that's more kills over, that is unerringly close to what looks to be either a Bloodthirst.
It'll be a Bloodthirst. Should be a Bloodthirst.
Should likely be a Bloodthirst.
Yeah, if you're not going for lifesteal in
Infinity Edge second would be bad.
Yeah. Gale Force Bloodthirster is a really good kind of... it's not the highest damage, but it's very good utility. It allows you to have good target access and just the ability to stay in the fight. He's going to be fighting a lot of PvE right now, though. He's just going to be pushing into these towers. And now, when you are this ungodly far ahead in the matchup, you do get to push towers really, really easily.
Chasey has to orange away the trade up here as Meganar comes through. He's down a couple levels, actually, so needs to be a little afraid. Doing his best to trade this one up best he can, but to the bot side we go once more as Attila with that level advantage. Gale Force, for the mother of all damage, gets the crit there.
Yeah, that's Gale Force damage. Getting below a certain amount of HP. Remember, Gale Force actually does kind of have a pseudo-execute. It does about double damage on low health targets. So close to the kill. Absolutely wrecking balling through the bot side of the map.
And now with the plates falling, that tower is not long for the world. Attila will walk up with Crescendum to his name and likely secure first turret with little to be found for Astralis right now on the other side.
Well, I mean, at least on the side of Astralis, Carlson is playing with a point to prove. Got the solo kill a little earlier when Chasey committed that ult towards that bot side, but continually taking hard trades, getting a CS advantage, pushing down that tower's HP. It's not enough to break the game just yet, nor is it enough to even out this bot side, but it's something. And it does make me wonder, can Astralis at this point kind of triage the issues they're going towards and try and make the game not about the Aphelios? Maybe unlock a side lane win condition through Carlson, who is currently getting the best of this matchup against Chasey.
So we've got ourselves the Herald spawned. Attila will roam over.
Focusing.
Is off vision and gets abyssally dived onto. Will use the bailout. Doesn't actually die quite yet. The turnaround is huge as the shot glass combo comes through. Cannon Barrage forced out a number of key ultimates. Chasey looking for the barrel chain, won't quite land it as Carlson knocks the barrel out. As Temp goes forward, tries to get the charm, won't quite make it land. Has to flash out now as Attila is here. But I don't know whether they can still fight. Going to try and get towards
Attila's
Meganov,
in a
but
bit
that
of a weird
incredible use of that handshake. And what about the weird spot?
Yeah, Attila's not stood behind anyone, and that's normally not great for NFLers. Does have both summoners and a heck of a lot of damage. You can't afford to let this guy slip through your net, but Attila's not in the best place to be doing all of that damage. And again,
so Meganart was looking for it as Kasing taken very low. A Boomerang Blade would do it. The teleporting in behind gets bailed out, but will still likely fall. Will get that kill, 4th of the game for Carlson, but now he's on the wrong side. And the shutdown available on his skull means they're likely going to try and give this one over to Attila.
Oh, that's slick.
Gives him some options, but Chasey can now look to run at him. Takes another tower shot. There is a flash available for Chasey, and Carlson won't actually die as yet, looking to recall and get out to safety. He gets
Viking's
out.
going to see this. Oh, he's used his E. They're not going to get him. Oh, Chasey. He couldn't even find him. Carlson gets out.
Absolutely stellar stuff from the Astralis top lane. Attila, though, still a bit of a terror here with the ghost popped, however, to that we one summoner down, teleporting behind. What the hell? They're going to keep going. Temp will not get shuffled. Carlson's here, but in Minar. Viking gets a knock up on attack.
What is happening?
Has to flash away. Carlson on the side looking for an angle. But what about the other side? Charm onto Kiva means it's Tom Kent as well and truly benched. What about the rest of the furniture? I think they're looking for the whole kitchen sink. Temp will not quite secure it. That's to go back to Chrisberg. And this fight is getting messy. Handshake onto Carlson. Viking on the other side did secure the Herald while that was happening. Chasey taken low. Senka's trying to secure the kill on the other side. Binding Eclipse onto Carlson's Meganar. Taken pretty low. Chasey on the other side trying to trade out best he can with the barrels. Using the zoning tools. Another slow from the Gravitum. And a handshake allows Attila to go godlike in this game. Bow down and worship. Aussie Man dies as well and truly here. And his empire hasn't crumbled yet.
This is such a scrappy game, but you're scrapping against a team with a seriously powerful carry. You are going to lose split fights against a 7-kill AD carry. Senkox tries to look for Chasey, doesn't have the damage just there yet. It's gone for a crown first. It's not the highest damage first burst item, but I am a little bit perplexed about what Astralis thought was going to happen in a lot of these players. It does seem like a lot of individual calls not quite working out. This is much less cohesive than it was in Game 1. That was one of the moments which was one of the big factors for them in Game 1. They were on the same page. They were managing to get onto the targets for large amounts of that game. Of course, late game was a different story, but in this one, X7, they are so more than happy to scrap him at this point.
Chrisberg on about 10 HP there, did survive Temp's dive and got one back, but it'll still be a 1-for-1. It'll still be the Herald going to Viking, who wasn't here for most of this fight. And what a handshake there. Flash for an attempted kill with the Dragon Strike on Chrisberg.
That's what we call a hands check, just seeing if the hand's on the keyboard, and Chrisberg does manage to press E, spell shields the Dragon Strike, but even with that, there's so many resources used, so many flashes used by Astralis that they're not really in a position to defend. They are starting to fall behind. They really want to be the ones making proactive plays at this point because it's so hard to outrange this X7 comp.
Seconds flash.
Even with your Sivir and your Zip.
Sing, handshakes there as well, and again, before I rudely interrupted my brother, very good point there. As Temp goes over the wall, not have time to talk about it, the cannon barrage afterwards. Hostile takeover means Keeper's got nowhere to go. Chrisberg in the Cataclysm, and Astralis are being, well, routed. There's nowhere left on the battlefield for them. White flags coming up across the mid lane.
That is a lovely angle from Tempt. Just jumps over the wall. He has an Everfrost, and that allows him to tag Keeper through the wave. That's one of the bonuses going for that item. You don't get to hide behind anything. Nothing blocks that Everfrost, but Carlson trying to get something back. Gets a tower. It's at the cost of his life. What else does he get?
Not got a shutdown on his head because he was claimed earlier. He's got a Meganar, gets him into the wall, but with Severum, Crescendum, and a Gale Force, nowhere to go. Yes. And the top laner that had been a bright spark is quickly snuffed out as the tower falls.
Yeah, were the KDA not enough for Attila? He's using nature language. Bright colors saying, don't fight me, I'm poisonous. Or in this case, just busts out a lot of damage. Very spiky. The red, white, Calibrum, not even needed.
Charm, there'll be an Everfrost afterwards, you expect. Does go wide this time. We're going to try to Bissell dive out. Flash alongside the W, gets the Catfish out to safety.
But it feels like Astralis' best plays in the last couple of minutes have been escapes or near escapes. And that's what you're starting to determine this game on. X7, Astralis, so close in game 1, but this second game is not nearly the same. Chasey might be able to get shut down on both with Taxa not being at the highest point in strength right now, not even willing to take that fight. Jungler to top laner. X7 starting to really pull Astralis across the map, and Astralis are struggling to decisively make winning plays.
Yeah, they really are in this one, unfortunately. It's been a brutal game, all things said and done. Not too much more to be done about it. And a reminder, X7 win this, they are one game away from getting towards EU Masters.
Huge.
Astralis, after a game one that seemed oh so close for large portions of it, and off some phenomenal play, really, from Senkux's Ari. This time around, just doesn't seem to have found anything that will give them an option in this game.
Yeah, and, now looking at what Astralis can do to get themselves back into this game, they're doing what they can to get vision control, but they're not really a team with the best flank potential. You really are looking for Carlson to do some magic at this point. I feel it is all on this Gnar. What can you do with the lane allocations? What can you do with those big flanks? Has been shut down a number of times in the last few minutes.
As we look as this final outer tower falls, I hesitate to ask because I suspect it's going to be a little ugly to behold, but observers, can we look at the gold, please? And yeah, that's a bot gap.
Ow. I mean, Astralis has had like an unexpected like tax windfall or something, just like the government calls and goes, yo, Valios, you need some cash.
Lunari Trust Fund, I tell you. Just come straight out. It's like, yep, I have bought my way through college. I'm nearly at my third item, my third certificate. I am ready and willing to take on the world. Everyone else can buy.
Stonks go up. Oh my word, that is just
No,
so
it's a fairly
crazy.
gain, not a fairly loss.
Fairly gains. Is that like part of the gym skin line?
I mean, I would, I don't know. Maybe that'll be another one. I'm trying to think of where to go with that.
I don't know, like...
we'll avoid it for now. His temp gets jumped on. He's a knock-up. Doesn't really have anywhere to go. The bounce house comes through. Has got a flash and an ultimate. May need to burn both. Tax Central Viking tries to turn it around. The shield down.
Oh,
no! Murder them. It's all a bait. He was too tempting. And isn't that oh so appropriate? X7 get 3, including the jungler now. Senkux and Carlson must prevent the Baron. But I don't think they've got anything to say about it.
Oh, our org who art in red side. Leaders not into tempt, but deliver us from Cannonball. I don't know, there's something unholy about that combo. It ain't really revered at X7. That is such a disgusting turnaround. You can see how desperate Astralis are. Much like in game one, actually, throughout the mid-game, X7 were the team that was struggling to reach their target, struggling to finish off those first kills. Astralis slapped in the face with that in this game. And it's getting harder and harder. Each time you fail this, the harder it gets the next time. And it was close-ish before. This is just so hard to stomach, though, because they get about the perfect CC combo. You get the knock-up from Tom Kench, knock-up from the 3 Talon Strike. They try to twin it into the Gore Drinker into the ult. It's just not enough. They're trying again.
Round 2 fight. Tempt's gonna get knocked up and finally taken down. My days, it took them so many attempts, but they get a kill into Senkux's hands. Prevent too easy a Baron shove, but his wave's getting shoved through mid, and
there's a teleport topside.
Yeah,
X7
for it.
Like, the resources used bot side give X7 the green light everywhere else after they've taken that Baron to go pushing across the rest of it, but split. Maybe Astralis can find something with the Sivir ult.
BV4 on the hunt they go. Kasing slowed down. We'll have a bailout. We'll have a flash that's required. Not use the ultimate quite yet. Doesn't have it available quite yet. Means Kasing about to fall does so. And they get another kill. The double teleport's gone through, but one of the turnaround. Viking to the back end. Attila doing his best as Chasey murders the Gnar. Look at the damage going through as Attila with the Dustwave doing what he can. Another one. A legend in this game. Double for Chasey. Cannon barrage afterwards means they cannot retreat. Senkux flashes the flag. The drag. The soldiers secure the shutdown. But Chasey gets the triple. Was it worth it, Astralis?
Oh, that is again a heartbreak. But X7 hold their discipline. That's been the word I would use for them in this game so far. X7, they overstay a little bit. This is something that we've seen ever since about, call it 2019, Season 9. This is something that G2 showed the world. If you're using a Baron and you just split yourself too thin, you get collapsed on, you get punished. Astralis try that here. They really try, but they just don't have the resources. They don't have the gold, they don't have the items. And X7 engaging into this comp is so difficult.
The Binding Eclipse stops Carlson getting an easy Mega 9. Yes, you lose Kaseng, but then Chasey, Viking, Attila in a 3 versus 5 murder Astralis.
This is really this has got to be so disheartening for Taxa and just everyone else on the roster here, because Taxa's actually doing a really good job of trying to beat that temporary front line, neutralize that range advantage, but Senkux and Taxa, they try so much. They try so hard. And Senkux does a damn fine job. Gets the 1,000 gold shut down onto the Astralis. That is relevant. That's all cool. You're almost at a 3rd item on Azir now. That's awesome. But you're still 10,000 gold behind as a team. Like, you're trying really hard, and the execution is almost there. But you've got a heck of a mountain to climb.
Yeah, and the problem is, well done, you've killed Attila once.
Do it again.
You got to do it
3
again
times.
and again and again. He's at 3 items, plus boots, plus another couple long swords. He's looking to... I mean, look at the other side. Yes, Chrisberg's got a couple kills, but he's 2-5 and 2. He's down 2 levels to the other AD carry. There'll be a level 3 Moonlight Vigil soon enough.
Yep. So let's go reset a little bit again, because X7 soul point, then took the dragon in the last 30 seconds. Viking fishing once again, looking to be on the engage. But Astralis, we talked about them maybe trying to go towards those teleport flanks earlier in the game. They managed to pull off 1. But what do they have to do that again? They don't have the teleports off of cooldown, and they are waiting at the whims of X7, and they're really waiting for X7 to make mistakes. But again, the word going to return back to it. Discipline. X7, first game, stayed in it, waited for that one opportunity. It eventually showed itself. In this game, they got ahead, and they've just not given freebies. They've been taking the free wins. Oh my word.
Tax is done. He's getting devoured. That'll buy some time, but I don't know whether he's going to have much more to say about it. He will actually get out for safety, but Chasey, after a little bit of bullying in the early game, is now well and truly online at 3 items himself.
It's like, remember me from high school? Blam! Barrel. 2 of them in a row. And he's got the double armor pen crit items in 2. Jeez, this Gangplank putting out so much damage. For the early game, Carlson was doing work, but Chasey, with the help of the rest of his team, has started to really eclipse the rest of this build. Right, Astralis playing around vision traps. What can they do?
Can try and get him. Everyone's gone back. Viking's in trouble, gets knocked up, tries to flag and drag away. Does for now. Doesn't have flash, but it's getting slowed down. Chasey's coming up. We'll have barrels to try and work with, but there's nowhere to go. Gets a cataclysm. Barrel chain afterwards. Just a normal, another cannon barrage. It's going to come down to Moonlight Vigils there as well. My God, the damage onto 4. It's not quite enough to finish anybody off. But X7 tried to make the best out of that pick, but it's still a dead Viking nonetheless.
I was actually wondering if Attila was going to Gale Force forward and use those check rooms to good use, but not feeling quite so bold. Right, Astralis, those wards coming up pretty good here. Oh, move speed.
So much fun. There's an onslaught afterwards. He'll get more move speed yet. Gets even more damage. The bailout's on for more attack speed. Nunu got Blood Boil removed, but Renata can do that just as well with this iteration of her kit. And they won't quite get the kill, but you can see that the bloodthirstiness that's happened from this bot lane. Attila has been a monster, frankly, in this game. And I'm beginning to worry. After game 1 was close, game 2 has been anything but. Yes, this game isn't over, but it feels all but certain it's going X7's way. Have Astralis got to think about the next game already? They just need to stay in it.
You know what? Don't think the game's over just yet, especially when you have... I mean, so one thing we were talking about a little bit with the Jhin Zhao, I said it earlier into the game, and I feel like this needs a little bit of extra kind of context to it. I said that Jhin Zhao helps deal with range advantages. Now, when you look at a Sivir and a Azir, normally you think, hang on, that's pretty long range. What's happening with that? Now, Sivir needs a target to hit to be long range. You need to bounce that ricochet off someone. The way that X7 are playing is actually just allowing the Astralis to pull into them. They're just folding backwards. They're using barrel chains as a front line, and Sivir doesn't ricochet off of barrels. You don't ricochet off of a Renata Glask ultimate, right? It's just not happening. So when you've got the Ahri and the Gangplank barrels and the Aphelios, actually feels like Astralis have to overreach to find their targets, and they're struggling so hard to take control of this territory once X7 claim it. They claim the Baron. Maybe they can get themselves a tower in response, but you're gonna have to deal with X7. Maybe looking on the offensive now.
Gets the Everfrost. They're gonna try and dive on, but there's still another couple charges of the Spirit Rush. There's the cannon barrage afterwards, and I think that might be a 21 gun salute. Already dead. It is Taxa. Death and Taxes. We already knew they were linked together, but just like that, Senkux falls as well. The Shurima shuffle will not secure what they need. Carlson desperately flashes to clear the way, but there is no escape this time. The Gnar is staying straight back to the prehistoric Stone Age.
It's double teleports towards the top side, double wins back-to-back for X7. It takes a little while, but they managed to foul Astralis a second time in a row, and what an insane performance on this game by the Aphelios player himself, Attila. And on the back of that Aphelios, on the back of a crushing early game, X7 moved to match point. X7 moved to 1 game shy of a return to the Amazon European Masters. One more to be done, unless Astralis can find some way, some miracle to find a way back in this series. Otherwise, X7 will prove why everyone was fearing them coming into playoffs. Playing with their food, the Hex is sure to fall, waiting to just buff some numbers, get those kills up in the board, and oh my word, that damage. So much to work with, and X7, just like that, it's 2-0. We were supposed to have a 5-game series. Now, for that game 1, it felt like we could go that way. I will say, there is such thing as close 3-0s. First game, genuinely could have flipped it either way. This second game, very much in favor of X7, but even with that, you can see that Astralis just pulling and putting the question out there and just saying, okay, if you make mistakes, we can punish that. That recall which Viking had on Vision very nearly led to Jungler being down at an important time, but it's not enough. And X7, again, gonna keep coming back to it. They are ironclad. They are disciplined. They're not giving these openings easily to even a team as high quality as Astralis.
Well, we don't have too much time, but what did have time was 200 years of game design, courtesy of Attila on the Aphelios. To the desk we go to break that one down.
I have bad memory, but I recall someone at the beginning of the show saying, we're going to have 5 games today.
I might have jinxed it.
You
Low-key, I might have jinxed the series. It might be a swift 3-0, you know, opposite day type deal.
So if you say it's a 3-0, so it's a reverse sweep right now. That's how it works.
Potentially. Opposite day.
Okay, there's something going on. Is this detective troubling?
I mean, come on, man. We bring you here, we give you a home, you know, to express yourself, to give us that top lane knowledge, and you jinx the series? It's fine. I needed some sleep anyway tonight.
Okay, credit what credit is due. Let's talk about our Hex7. X7 yet again showcased that Attila is not allowed to have any sort of leads.
We were extremely critical of the early game and them actually identifying how to play that early game. Now, this worked wonders. The Jarvan walked bots out of the map. The Ahri walked bots out of the map. They got Attila these 2 first kills. One of them was even a 2 versus 2 that Attila got the kill of. But later on, they managed to snowball. And from minute 12, 16, these Aphelios had 6 or 7 kills in the bag, 0 deaths. And only by the end of the game, they managed to kill him for the first time. So yes, I think at this point, Attila is a freaking problem, whether it's on an early game laning bully or the Aphelios that scales later into the game.
And they knew that there was supposed to be a fight constantly, and they fought 4v5.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, just going back to the Attila, I just think this showcases just how versatile X7 are, right? If top lane's not carrying, if mid lane's not carrying, then bot lane's carrying, right? Look at this Moonlight Vigil. It's absolutely crazy. You take the chakrams, and he just runs away with the fight.
What a lovely weapon is it, right? I don't need anything more. That smile alone.
I think the story and the sentiment also that Kasing gave us is the fact that, you know what, Astralis are going to bring the team fight to us. And even though Astralis actually had the numbers disadvantage in this Herald fight, they managed to push X7 away from the Eye of the Herald, which means that the Herald despawned and they weren't able to use that, even though they did transition the entire map towards the top side. But I think what really speaks wonders is the fact that you just cannot keep Attila down. I think unless you shut down that lane, it's gonna be impossible. And we have a replay where actually X7 bundle up towards the bot side of the map and they just use the numbers advantage. As you'll see on your screen right here, this is a 4-man dive bot lane. They have actually targeted Crispec. They kill Kiba second. This is already a double kill that's going over to Aphelios. And even though Viking sure is going to end up giving up his life for it, the work here is done. They're getting more tire platings towards the bot side of the map, and it's fine. Carlson gets a solo kill onto Chasey. Fair enough for him, but the main objective right here is feed the Aphelios, give him more plates, give you more kills, give you more gold, and that's exactly what happened. Look at that there. Sengax also tries to get away with the last second sealed, but Kasing is going to say no. Aphelios here gets yet another 3 kills in 1 dive, and they got a bunch of tower platings after that as well. So for me, it's just very difficult for Astralis to play that bot lane. Get the F out of bot lane, man. Like, get the heck out of there.
So I'm going to make the question, what can Astralis do right now to make this different? Where should they start?
I think you look at Kiba and you give this man a hook.
There you go. That's what I wanted to see.
Like, players at this level, players at all levels, they have identities. And this is not Kiba's identity. He is not a peel bot. He is not an enchanter player. He's not a Tom Kench player. Give him Mumu, Nautilus, you know, Pike, all these champions that can just go, you know, leave the lane and snowball the rest of them out.
I just think that Hylissang is very similar, Kiba is very similar to a Hylissang or a Targamas. If he doesn't have a roaming support, what the heck do you have this player in the team for, right? You want Kiba to engage for you, to create opportunities for you, to roam the map, to confuse Viking, to have to force Viking to be more proactive and figure out what that support is. I feel like, if anything, Astralis right here, out with their backs against the wall, one game from that EU Masters, he can completely run away from them and having to wait for next split. So, if anything, get that curveball going, throwing Kiba a roaming support, and just see what happens.
X7 are one game away from solidifying and locking themselves in to EU Masters, regardless of what stage it is, because they will have to face JDXL on the lower bracket. Oh, that's going to be a spicy one if Astralis is not capable of pulling this one through with a reverse sweep. But we reached out to a few players to understand what the best skins were. You guys remember that one, but we also asked, what are the worst skins in the game?
I mean, there are some really outdated skins that are that are being tashed. Let's say it like that, right? The one that I hate the most is not even one that I find like it's ugly or bad looking, but it is the Karma one. That how's it called? It's Dawnbringer Karma. Why? Because I just cannot differentiate Mantra Q from the normal Q, so I always get hit by it and I just look really bad when I play against it. So yeah, I hate that skin a lot.
No, there was like some Karma skins, so like Darkstar Karma, that you just can't see when she uses Mantra, where it's just like, you know, you gotta take the flip, whether it glows a bit lighter or not, but you never know.
Oh, Corki. Actually, a skin a lot of people like, but I absolutely hate, is the new Corki skin. It's the astronaut Corki. It always looks like he has package. Like, the animation he has when he doesn't have package on that skin looks like the other skins when they have package. Obviously, when he has package on the skin, it's very obvious that he has it, but when he doesn't have it, it still looks like he has it. Which, because you're used to all the other skins, it's so bad, and it's allowed and competitive, which makes it even worse.
I hate playing as the skins that like make the abilities look super different or like super hard to see, so I get hit by random skill shots when I don't see them. Most of the skins are disabled on Tournament Realm, but there is still some that aren't, like the new Beekeeper Oriana skin, like that one is just impossible to see the ulti of.
I think like the Shamrock Malphite and like the really old Season 1 skins like that are super ugly. They should probably get updated. Look at that guy.
I think maybe, I don't know, Yumi skins, because I hate the champ, so Dark Cosmic Locks maybe. Hard to see the particles.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with him. Yeah, but on Venzer, he was saying that it's really complicated to dodge those skills on Ariana B. I'm gonna be honest, you don't even dodge.
It didn't look any different versus Talia, I'm just gonna say.
Okay, it's not about the skins, Venzer, okay? It's not about the skins. I'm looking at you.
Listen, man,
It's like
you'll have your chance on Monday. Let him be for now. Let him be for now, man.
Okay,
You'll have your
I
chance
will
on
allow
Monday.
it. I will allow it. So, to talk about this more seriously, I need to understand, what is your least favorite skin in you as well? Yeah.
My least favorite skin is also my favorite skin, and that has to be Battle Queen Katarina, because even though I love everything, the graphics, the design, everything of it, it just feels so bulky to play with. Like, the character feels very heavy to move around the map, but anything design-wise on it, I really love. It's just a love-hate relationship with the same skin, you know?
Interesting. Okay, interesting take. What about you, Eragon?
For me, it has to be, okay, so if I'm talking objectively, like in terms of gameplay, it would be an Ashe skin. All the Ashe skins, I swear you can't see the arrows. They're so annoying. But like, in terms of visuals, it has to be Nightmare Cho'Gath. If you look at the splash art for Nightmare Cho'Gath, it's actually just base splash art with like a color filter over it. It's really dumb.
Good take, good take.
It reminds me of old Tristana with like fuchsia hair, or like old Alistair skins. Or there was a Kennen skin as well where he literally just looks green.
Yeah, Swamp Master Kennen.
Yeah.
Swamp Master Kennen. I have that one, and it happens. To me, I'm going to say something really bold. Okay, I don't know if the community is ready for this one.
No.
I would love to have an option inside of the game that would disable skins from enemies.
I agree. 100%. Some skins are so annoying.
Yep. There's one from Vladimir that I just can't. In the river, you don't see the ultimate.
Also, I was playing an ARAM, and there was an Echo skin. I can't remember which one. I think it's one of the most recent released one. And the W on the Echo looked like an Orianna ult. I was flashing it for no reason.
Hey, at least you're dodging those, and apparently Venzo cannot dodge Orianna. Let's talk about this game as we have match point.
I didn't mention anything level 3. I'm just showing that my hands are clean here.
This is complicated. Either you adapt or you fall short.
I think at this point you need to throw a curveball to X7. They've seen you play the exact same game twice in a row. In the first one, we said in the best of 5 series, game 1 is always going to be slow. X7 took it slow. They fell behind in the early game. They came back for a stellar team fight, and especially from the 2 Korean guys that they have on the team as well. X7 woke up in the second game. They knew what they could take in the early. Astralis are still playing the same damn game. They're very slow. They're very methodical. Turn up the gears. Put Kiba on Roma, give Carlsen a very impactful pick like the Na, maybe even the Wen. Put him back on the Ornn, it doesn't matter. Just get Kiba rolling on the map so it's not just Senkax and Taxa going places on their own.
There's one solution for Astralis. What about you?
I think what we're very, very likely to see is exactly what you're saying. Because when your back's against the wall, what you're likely to do is go back to what you practiced or worked last time. Right? And what happened last series was they were playing Perma Romas versus Riddle. So I think we're just going to see them do that this time.
Let's see what you guys back at home think, because so far you have been correct, Twitch. You guys are really smart now. Show me. I'm scared.
It was only 9%.
9%.
How many more accounts has Ducklink created?
Wait, is it
90? Wait, what?
Duckling.
You guys don't make sense. Ducklink has been working during the
Duckling is working extra hours just for this. You just seem like, for the stars, for the stars, for the stars.
For the stars 1, for the stars 2, for the stars 3, for the stars 4.
So shall we toss this for what could possibly be the last time? Eragon, if you may. There you go. Champions League is going to be the 3rd one of the day, possibly the last unless Astralis brings something new into the table. Let's start with the bands. Going to be blue side Astralis yet again. Do we get to see Yuumi kicked off from this map?
Take Renata off. Or take it away and give it over to Kiba. Get a power pick for yourself, such as the Zeri. We've seen Crispa Zeri for the longest time. I think Taxer's pool and the way he's been playing the game have not negatively impacted the gameplay from Astralis. I think his Zinzao, if anything, has been pretty fine. It's worked from the front to backs. He's been ganking. He's been very... So, Syla's been banned that early from blue side. To me, screams something like maybe a Swain
and a
or
Lissandra.
Even a Gnar. Yeah.
Also, Lissandra is really, really countered by Silas. So that too, all those picks. I think we're probably going to see, what I'm noticing is Severe's going through again. I don't think Severe was a problem. I think we'll probably see a Severe power pick again. I think we'll probably see Gnar top again. These are like the prominent picks that are still available. Talia's up too. So maybe those picks.
But bring in something like the Pike, something that can...
Yeah, exactly. You complement it with a Nautilus. I really like the Kiba Nautilus. Every time I see it, I'm just really impressed, right?
Played a lot of times during the regular splits.
I'm a little worried.
Okay.
I'm a little worried because usually Salas is a really nice answer to Alista as well, which is something that can create fights. Salas is a really nice answer to all of these utility/CC lock mid lanes that we've mentioned, and something that Senkax has been piloting around. Now, of course, 3 picks directed towards Taxa, again from the side of X7. And does Astralis take away here the Renata? Because I think it's been extremely problematic, especially when you like to team fight. Team fighting into a Renata is an issue. We're going to see a change of pace in the jungle on the B1. Diego.
Got himself a jungler to begin with, so they want to give something.
Open? It's a little bit of a head scratcher for
question, yeah. But you still have the Jarvan that Viking has been relying so much. He has been a menace with the Jarvan as well, with the Prince. But this allows the Gnar to come through.
And the Severe potentially. Like, I think maybe Taxa just wanted to change of pace, right? Maybe he'd had, you know what, I've had enough of Zinzao, you know, and that's completely fine. That's what people actually think when they play competitive and they're in the series losing. I just want a different champion. That's what we saw yesterday from Kerberos.
To be honest, I think more of a snowballing/carry champion on Taxa in this particular series, I agree with. Because Senkax and Taxa have been the 2 best performing players from the side of Astralis so far. I do not think Crispec has stepped up to the occasion yet. I think Carlsen has had a good and a meh game, but Taxa and Senkax have been consistent in the game they want to play, and giving him possibly a snowballing jungler might actually help that mid-jungle duo excel a little bit more.
So we finally jump to the blue side. It's going to be an adaptation, probably from Crispberg. It shouldn't be from Kib, I believe.
Okay. I think this is going to be Senkax, guys. I've never seen in my life Chrisberg actually pilot and enchanted down the bot side of the map. He has been very loyal, let's say, to his marksman.
I think it could be, though. I think it fits how Chrisberg wants to play. He wants to sit back and scale, like with the Seviers and with this sort of Zeres, this sorts of picks. If we see this counter pick Aurelia into Gnar, I'd be willing. I'd be willing to call the game already.
Whoa! 4x7.
Yes, 4x7.
Oh no!
Yeah, I do not trust the. It's so okay. So the reason I'm saying this, it sounds harsh to give this to Carlson, but I think it's really hard to execute. Right? Maybe they saw that Carlson was actually getting the better of Chasey in those trades early on, and they're like, you know what? We're giving you full confidence. Just do it. I think it's too difficult to pull off, especially versus a Renata. Renata offers too much disengage onto their carries, and it really screws over Aurelia and the way she wants to fight.
It's a full all-in then for Astralis at this point, trying to deviate from what they brought on the first 2 games.
We're going to see a Roma now because Aurelia needs a lot of attention. We're going to see Kiba on the roaming.
It has to be a Roma.
It has to be.
I think you're going to see Kiba on that Seraphine potentially, and there's going to be a Senna coming in from Chrisberg because Twitch has been banned away. Potentially yet another AD carry is going to be banned away from the set of X7, so they really do not believe that Chrisberg is going to be piloting this Seraphine, and I feel that Senkax has been such an important part in their carry potential, in the carry department, that you can't just stick him on a Seraphine and pray for late game. You need something on the map to be moving, and the thing that is working for them on the map right now is that mid-jungle duo. So you stick Seraphine onto Kiba, you put Chrisberg on a hyper carry, most likely even the Senna, and you just play perma for that top of the map, get a Lissandra in there, get a Swain in there, get a Talia even in there for Senkax, and just perma roam towards top.
So the thing is, what I'm looking for now is potentially a counter pick onto the mid laner for X7. The way you beat Aurelia is you stop her fighting, because Aurelia has a really silly design. If she's fighting, she wins. So you just stop her fighting, she'll keep fighting anyway, and she will die, right? So just give mid roaming potential, the Ari, right, potentially, and let them roam top lane.
I love this explanation. Actually, I've never heard this before. If you fight, you lose. We've all seen the champion dive 1v4 and actually come up with a triple kill, you know, but I like and dislike this vibe right here, because even though it's a very easy way to press R and dunk onto someone, I'm only seeing one diving champion so far. Maybe now if he's mega towards the backline, right? So I'd like to see if there's maybe some backline access from this of them, maybe something like an Akali.
I think the reason for the vibe pick is because you need engage out of somewhere, right? Gnar engage isn't exactly consistent, right? Typically you get it from top support, you know, these sorts of roles.
Well, and I'd be damned.
Jarvan is banned, so you go for Vi, and there we go.
It's still not locked in for Chrisberg. It could still go for Senkax. You told us about it,
no, but I'd be down because Kiba's on a hooking support, right?
They need it.
Give him a hook. It's Chrisberg on the Seraphine? I've never seen him in my entire life, as long as I've been casting him, to play anything other than a marksman. I think that is a huge change of speed right here for Astralis, and it's one that I really love to see. The only issue here and the only thorn is that Seraphine cannot stay alone in lane. This is very susceptible to ganks, especially prior to level 6.
And we also have the Silas ban that really indicated the Lissandra pick for me. Like all the way back when, it really opens up Lissandra. Like, I can't stress enough how bad this matchup is. And the Swain. Okay, so there was this interview in the LPL actually, and someone was being interviewed about the Lissandra Swain matchup, and they were just saying this matchup is unplayable for Lissandra. Actually, you need it banned. So the fact this has gone through is really curious.
And it seems like the teamfight potential for X7 is disgusting. This is my way of looking into that one. This is complicated to just be there.
I'd say the teamfight potential for Astralis is also pretty insane, but you need to get into that late game, because if you look at your most consistent damage dealers, it's your Viego and your Aurelia, and this is why you're picking the Seraphine, to keep them alive during the fights, right? Yeah. This is an Astralis that says, come at us, and we have so many ultimates that we can peel backwards with and also keep our carries alive. But when it comes to Astralis engaging, there's just so many disengaging, peeling from a set of seven.
It's very much a case for, if you look at how Astralis want to fight, Astralis want to get that initial pick because they've drafted the fabled Lissandra Viego burst combo, right? You need to burst that one target so you get a Viego reset. You also get the Lissandra passive in the same kill. That's how they want to fight. Whereas I think X7 have a much easier to execute team fight. They just run at them and press R. It's really not that hard.
Okay, predictions.
I think you go first. I need to think.
I've on an enchanter, and even though I'm willing to put my faith in him, on the marksman in the games 1 and 2, I think he was very poor, and I don't know how he's going to do on the Seraphine. So the pure fact that he's not on a hyper carry, he's not continuing on his strength, makes me go towards the Seraph X7.
Okay, X7?
I think X7 win. I think the draft is much harder to execute for Astralis.
We were expecting 5 games today, but apparently it seems like everybody is betting on 3 games alone. Without further ado, to finally find out who's going to be at the EU Master 3rd seed, it is X7 versus Astralis, 3rd game of the day. I know you want to talk, Initialize, so I'll toss it to you.
Thank you. Mainly because I'm very confused, because I'm seeing what appears to be a Sivir and a Seraphine. There's no Jinx involved in that bot lane. I don't know what Aragon's talking about, so...
Don't you start. But finally mentioned that. As soon as Trouble mentioned that they, never seen Chrisberg on the Seraphine. Well, it's because he's never played it before.
Yeah.
Never played it. The closest thing I could find to anything like it was 1 game of Ziggs across his entire career.
That is not a lot.
And Chrisberg's logged in a few games. So this is a complete heel turn. It's a 180. It's seeing the 2 games of Sivir be fairly non-impactful, actually. First game, that game was decided by Chrisberg getting core, having to deal with the Jarvan. It's a very difficult champion to play into as a crit carry. Second game, similar kind of story. Very much struggled to really have much impact, especially after Attila started popping off. This 3rd game, potentially the decider, potentially the one which sends Astralis home and leaves them here in 4th. They've taken a different track.
Got to remember as we get ready to load onto the Rift that this is one final attempt for Astralis to stay in this game. The lights go down because the lights feel like they're going out.
It's
on the side of Astralis. The stars are glimmering. They're falling out of the sky because X7 ran over game 2. They are 2-0. They are 1 game away from re-securing Amazon European Masters, from restarting that campaign they began in spring, for continuing to try and run the lower bracket gauntlet and prove that they are still worthy of being champions here. With this draft, with this change-up from both squads, Des thought it was X7 favored. I think it's X7 favored. Al.
So do I. So do I, because I look at this and I think that, yeah, it is difficult for Astralis to play this comp. I think you're obligated to be ahead. You need to be winning several key matchups. Yeah, this bot lane, you can afford for it to go even if your top side is ahead, but getting top side ahead is very difficult. Someone like Lissandra and Swain can be very tricky to work out. Of course, Irelia into Gnar, something that you were chatting about. You had a couple of quotes to throw at that.
I did. I mean, like, the thing about the Irelia into Gnar, there was a conversation with Alfari on the Euphoria podcast from last week, as it stands. And he was basically talking about the Irelia into Gnar pick. And he was saying, look, Gnar actually isn't that bad into Irelia anymore, in the sense that it's a known matchup. This matchup has been a thing for a while. And as long as someone shadows you as you make some of your wave crashes early on pre-6, and Irelia tries to all-in you, if she doesn't make the all-in succeed, she kind of doesn't get to do a lot, and she needs to snowball, and she's not necessarily in the best space, at least according to Alfari, who is, of course, a master of Gnar. So.
And, speaking as my own experience of being a mid laner, right? Irelia in the mid lane was kind of solved too. Well, you know that Irelia, she gets to have the wave in the right place, gets to hop through the minions and run you down in a long lane. That's very difficult, but if you're playing around these specific points in power in a competitive setting, you can predict it. And if something's predictable in comp, you can deal with it, as long as your team is coherent enough. So that's going to have to be a question from X7. They've looked very coherent. Again, the word of the day, particularly for me, has been discipline. X7 have been very hard to get under the skin of. Though Astralis have very much been trying that. They can fight level 1 with this duo lane, but...
And Attila, of course, on the other side of the Sivir this time, not facing into it, but picking it himself. Got a Renata alongside him, of course, and Kasing's Renata has been pretty extraordinary, all things said and done. Those hostile takeovers have been as potent as designed to be. Maybe we'll take this opportunity to touch on this top lane matchup, because obviously for the side of Astralis, had a game 1 where Sankox popped off, a game 2 where Carlson did get a decent lead on the Gnar early on, and need to see what he can get done on this counter matchup on a very different style of champion, as maybe instead we have to look towards the mid lane.
Captain Jack.
Well, cleansed by Tempt and leading up from his LCK brethren, following on Captain Jack's very slick fingers on the likes of cleansers and QSSs to ensure not too easy an all-in, as Carlson looking to do it anyway. Maybe they'll just turn it back and look for it there, as Chasey has to flash at level 2. Over comes Viking to try and get out of his own jungle, as Taxa looking to use the opportunity and pressure to this one. As well as he can, Denting blows land, but indeed, good sidestep.
You know, it actually makes me a little sad that most players will not know who Captain Jack is actually as a person now, as a player.
Yeah.
He was such a great player in his time.
I fight.
These players trying to put their names up there in this own scene. Taxa getting away from the Eye of the Empire, doing decent damage.
There's a lot of damage. Still gets hit by the Never Move, but a flash for the Ring of Frost, looking to secure first blood. And then Taxa gets a reset. A punish from the side of X7.
Okay, watch what's happening here. They're timing out this Soul. Can they kill Taxa before he gets a double rotation?
He's gonna try and do his best. They're gonna try and get the kill. Gets it. Chasey gets that one, but here comes the rest of Astralis. Aim for the Aurelia comes. Flash for the Flawless Duet doesn't quite work. And over the wall goes Viking. Dainty blows against Zenkuks. Double to Chasey's Nah. Visions of Empire means Temp can join in from way back in the lane, and Carlson's got nowhere to go. He flashed for the Flawless Duet, but his partner was not there. He's dancing by himself in the mid lane, and no one is there to watch him fall down. 3-1, and X7 are looking to run over this game like they did game 2.
Oh, Carlson's never gonna dance again after what they did to him. 0-1, he comes into the play, commits his flash, and they just don't execute. But Astralis, they're doubling down, they're going again.
The move lands, but there's the Ring of Frost. They're going to get Viking flashing with the use of the Vault Breaker, looking at more auto. He's got a red buff, but he's taking a lot of damage. He might just get traded out here. And that means Zenkuks gets that one. Some important kills back because it was looking very rough. Honestly, in some ways, it still is. Let's look at this bloodbath again.
So there is a lot of important stuff which goes on here, and particularly with Viego before level 6, stuff gets funky. Because when you get a kill, you don't actually have your ult to bring you back into Viego for. But what you can do is you can use up your own cooldowns while you're still in the Stolen Soul, and then try and go back into Viego, and they get another rotation. Effectively get like 6 abilities instead of just your 3 at level 3, right? But X7 managed to find the all-in before that. They time it out, and they just outplay. They have the damage, they have the hands, and then with the double red buff, with the rally with no cooldowns, Carlson struggles to keep that distance, very short range, can't get any of that DPS down, and Chasey is a huge, huge benefactory of this whole skirmish.
Yeah, of course, the follow-up afterwards where they try to play the 2v2 means at least one's traded back, but you look at the gold and it's like, well, already nearly 1,000 gold in the advantage for X7, just shy, and that's not what you want to see in this Aurelia. The counter matchup is facing down an R who got 2 kills and an assist.
And
got Steel Caps.
got Steel Caps first back. Now, one thing which is often not really spotted when you're watching it from a spectator, but you feel it so much when you're playing the matchup yourself, is when your enemy is faster than you, when you have a move speed differential, because it's just so much more easy to walk away from skill shots, walk away from a melee champion and outrange them. Now, Chasey is going to have to walk away from a lot of people, because that's 4 people on the top side of the map. Doesn't have a flash, doesn't have mega. This is going to be rough.
Said never going to dance again, but maybe they'll try ganking instead. It'll be a teleport trying to turn around. There's the Flawless Duet, gets towed straight into the grave. Nowhere to go. Attila is the one that teleports up here to claim the wave, interestingly. And he will have Kasing here to try and back this one up here. Over comes Carlson. The handshake lands. Loyalty program doesn't, but there's nowhere for Kasing to go. Flashing into tower range. Trying to trade this one back out. The Nautilus lands the hook. Bailout is there. Not quite enough. Won't get bailed out, and Carlson gets out alive.
That was a wonderful dive from Astralis. I was sat there thinking, wait, who's tanking? No one, because they managed to judge the distance, get right over the turret, and while Attila teleports up, taking the teleport on the Sivir, Kasing gets caught out, and suddenly, couple of kills are starting to rack up for Astralis. They're ahead in gold. That's a lot of gold over onto Taxa. The first pick, Viego. Taxa with a lot of gold now.
Let's have a look at this dive again, because it's a massive collapse from the side of Astralis.
So this is point and click into effectively point and click, because he's just completely immobilized. And while the teleport is in fairly good timing, it's just not enough. You're not that impactful as a turnaround champion as Sivir when you're only level 4. And Carlson manages to get out of tower aggro. If this was a dive before they just about spotted Renata and Carlson gets caught in tower range, it's a very different story. Maybe you do get that reset, maybe another tower shot comes through, but it's not to be. And we are in for another scrappy game. I'm liking this.
Let's check in again with Taxa, a player who had a pretty great game versus really. You can see the improvement we saw up in the KDA, up in the DPM, still involved in a lot of kills, and he's on a champion where he has to do a lot of the carrying. He's involved with all of the kills so far. He's got a red buff, maybe an angle in bot lane.
Oh, no flash for either of these.
Gonna try and get in. The encore comes through. It lands onto Kasing, of course, has got no flash, and Taxa picks up his 4th.
Oh, he picks up another, and when you're looking at this team composition, what did we say right at the start of the game? The Astralis are pretty much obligated to be ahead. They're starting to find that advantages. The gold's getting spiky. Someone on this team is now in a position which X7 need to be very, very wary of. If Viego starts going off, things get very dicey for them. So that's something on the table. It's X7 not sliding into an easy third game, even though they're 2-0 up. This one is set to be, once again, much like that first game, an even affair.
It is indeed. It's a Divine Sunder at 8 minutes for Taxa. Herald's been taken by Viking, who will have a Vault Breaker to try and get out of here. Taxa got level 6, lands a stun into the dredge line, and that will be a dead Vi. He's taken straight to the grave. This time the kill goes to Kiba, but the assist is still there for Viking.
He's going to cross the wall here. He's got a lot of damage, remember?
Gets onto Chasey. He's going to try and run this one. Has got the flash, will hop over the wall, and won't need to burn the additional summoner spell, but it will force him away from this tower.
And he's already down on CS. He does not have any business walking up to this tower. Yeah, Kasing, Tempt, you can walk up here. I don't think you win this fight at this point. Even with the Heartbreaker Strike not available, the level 6 jungler to the level 6 almost solo laners across the board. I mean, well, Chasey's the one that's down and at that level. You cannot be fighting this Viego. Viego is effectively another solo laner at this point.
There go Tax and Kiba. This gank squad, this roaming danger squad that's so used to being around mid lane has turned their attentions towards the top lane, try and make this one happen. Chase will have a Kasing around, but he might be a little too late. Flawless duet lands. Here comes Astralis. Going to try and get Chasey into a dangerous position. He's got a flash. Carlson takes a massive tower shot, though. Needs to be afraid. Gets wall-ups down. Taxa misses the Spectral Maw. The Visions of Empire goes wide. Senkux is here. So is Viking. And they're going to ward Astralis off that dive.
Okay, so they avoid the worst case scenario, which is Chasey dying again, and being forced off more CS, or being forced off just in general. At least they managed to get away with that, but they don't manage to get things around. They don't manage to get a shutdown on their Viego. Of course, we'll have to be tracking that as well. If Taxa dies, that's basically 2 kills for the price of 1. But while all this is happening, these 80 carries are, for once in this series, even. Because there has been nothing put towards bot side. It's become a game about top side, which I do feel, throughout the course of this series, has probably favored Astralis just a little bit, or at least has been more even than that bot lane. Attila is suddenly not in this crazy amount of advantage.
He used to be a little afraid. He's going to try and turn one, misses the Vanguard Sledge with a well-timed flash. Chasing nearly at Meganar, trying to hop forward and find another one here. The Flawless US does land, prevents an easy follow-in. Diego is here, and that means it's not going to happen. The flash advantage as Chasey tries to be aggressive in the 1v1.
Now, the question is that going to lead to anything? Because Chasey's now stood in that lane. Kasing is up on top, so cross-map's happening.
Flash of cease and desist does come through afterwards, though. Encore down, and Viking just dies. Misplay from Viking, who dies for the 3rd time this game.
Well, he's never played the enchanters in his career, but this one's making it look fairly slick. Gets a kill on the turret, the spell shield's down. Can keep it landing? Yeah, he does.
Chris spoke pretty low, though. Needs to be a little afraid. The dredge line and the depth charge mean nowhere for Attila to go. Chrisberg gets a second, and Astralis now in full command of this game.
And while this is happening, stuff's happening topside. It was meant to be a cross map, but X7 don't find anything on either side of the map.
They don't. Chasey stayed alive on the top side, but Viking misplaying that dive heavily and gets punished accordingly, and Attila pays for the sins afterwards to boot.
It looks like a couple of cooldowns to use topside. Looking at the Senkux Taxa ult cooldowns, but while all that's happening, yeah, it really is right to focus on that bot side, because chatting about, oh, this bot lane, that's kind of even. Ooh, it's no longer just the Attila show down in bot side. That's 2 kills, Odo Seraphine, and the only thing scarier than the Viego in this game is Viego with Seraphine buffing them up. Once that comes onto the table, X7, who need to shut down that champion, are going to find it that much harder to do so.
Kiba and Taxa have been absolutely everywhere. Kasing still doesn't have level 6, but at least Tempt has a demonic ascension to try and turn this one around, and maybe they've gone too far. Nevermove comes back, and Tempt playing this one out in a 1 versus 3. Well, 2, but Kasing doesn't have that ult, as we said. Kiba, another Nevermove, will likely die to another Death's Hand, has to flash away. Senkux taken low, Chasey's down as well, and Tempt stands his ground and delivers with the fury of his demonic side.
And that is while Dragon is up, so Kiba, no flash, no HP to fight towards that one. Vikings back towards bot side, just about to get that ultimate back available. Has the Herald to put into Attila's pocket, at least even up some of that gold, which went in the favor of Chrisberg earlier.
We'll use this as that counterweight to try and play for the Dragon. Another couple plates go over to Attila. And he'll do his best to play his one out, and you can see those double ups. Of course, one breaks the spell shield, and the other one does the extra damage, so still got decent options to trade into the Sivir, does this Seraphine.
There's actually quite a lot of easy ways to break that spell shield, because if you have, you know, the Viego going forwards, the Lysandra, something is probably hitting the Sivir if everything is piled on. It only really takes one thing to hit for it to be a really big problem, especially with the amount of damage coming through from Taxa, as he's saying. You've got a lot of spiky gold over onto Astralis. Some carries very much ahead of the curve. They're going to get this one's a Dragon. We'll also find out what Rift we're going to be on. It's going to be a Hextech Rift. Right, that changes some things. Because if we're going to be on a bit of a side laning game, when you've got Aurelia very important in this one with a bit of an advantage, those Hex Gates make it a little easier to traverse the map. Make it a little easier to reset, hop back onto the map. So, whereas I feel like Astralis want to be the ones with powerful side lanes, X7 now have a bit of a tool to get towards those said powerful side lanes and potentially counter them a little quicker.
Of course, you've got a teleport on the Sivir and a Spellbook on Tempt who can have his own teleports. You've got 3 teleports plus Hex Gates, which means actually playing those side lanes can be a little trickier than you might like. And you know, you got this very fed Viego who's managed to get a lot of those early objectives, but has traded that for some farm, and that's kept Viking at least within 1,000 gold, which was not what I was expecting when we hopped over that gold a little while ago. And yeah, now got the Divine Sender, and the game has roughly stabilized, but 2,000 gold in Astralis' favor. The question is that enough of a gold lead to be able to play this comp? Because I know you said you wanted this comp to be ahead. You said that was a necessity, a prerequisite.
Yes. I think it is enough given who the gold is on. You don't really give a damn about mid lane advantage in a 1v1 or even bot lane advantage in a 1v1. If Viego or Aurelia can start leading the charge with a bit more beef on them, a little bit harder to take down, hitting a little harder, that gets very, very dangerous. Be able to make picks like this.
Hands the handshake, but he gets just CC'd into death. There's nowhere for Kasing to go, and he's left out to dry by his team. The CC chain comes through. Herald falls shortly, I'm sure. Astralis just take that one free.
Yeah, they do, and suddenly, X7, who for most of this series have had great vision control, great ability to control the map, have
God's Edge coming through. Chasey, not a Mega Net, just gets taken out in 1v1. Carlson, first kill of the game.
Topside advantages. The gold is one thing, it's one metric, but it's more important to say, where is that gold? Carlson, they're given a lot of resources this game. X7 not able to cross map towards bot side, which is what they've been doing for so much of this series. And you know what? Astralis are in a pretty good spot now.
Oh yes, they are. There's the tower to fall as well. They got themselves a Herald, so another one should be available fairly shortly. Yes, this bot side tower was a little low, but Viking was looking to see whether anything could be stolen while the Herald was taken. I think he gets a camp or two, and that's about it.
That's first turret down too. It's taken a little while for the structures to fall across the board, but now we actually have to ask a bit of a question, which we haven't asked for a little while. We asked it in game 1, of course, when X7 were very far behind, which is, how do X7 get back into this? Because this is actually the point. Even 15 minutes in, you're starting to get a little bit worried, right? Now, you're looking for grouped up team fights, but you need to make sure the first kill doesn't come easy. Things like this can get a little nasty.
Lens comes through. Tempt's gonna throw up Demonic Ascension. Will Viking go in, try and trade this one? There's a stopwatch which allows some healing, but it's now a 4 versus 3. Flash away from Tempt, and he's playing this one so well. Viking to the backside, though. Very, very low. Carlson's still alive. Bailout will keep Viking in it. Taxa on the other side gets slammed into the wall. Shut down onto the Viego, and Tempt is still a demonic god amongst men. You cannot gank this Swain.
Well, how do X7 start winning these fights? You don't give the first kill easily. It takes a stopwatch. It takes a Swain being the target, who's arguably the hardest person to kill on the map. And it takes a Renata W too. But it's enough. X7, they deny the first reset. Aragon was saying it right at the start, right from Champions Light. Look, if you give a first kill over to the Lysandra Viego, you get not just the soul being taken by the Viego, you get the frozen thrall as well. And that's just too much. When you're healing up, bring this Swain ultimate, healing up into 3 targets, have a stopwatch, have a flash. You've burned so many cooldowns at this point. It gets enough time. Maybe if you had that Seraphine there at the start of the fight, things get a little different because they're actually adding in some decent damage too. But X7, they hold the battle lines and they're cool, they're calm, and they come out with an important skirmish victory.
I believe the end of that phrase is collected, and what was collected was a lot of shutdowns. The one on Tax's head, the one on Carlson's head, and the gold is now right back to about 1,000 apart. And X7 found the lease on life they needed there when things started to look as though they were snowballing away from them.
Okay, next thing's up on the table. So we got another dragon coming up. Remember, this is actually the Hex type map. You see those sparks of electricity in the air. We're starting to look at, okay, right, where's the setup coming from now? X7, actually getting some wards down. They're going to have control over this river. They've been, with that teamfight victory, one thing which often goes a little bit missed is when you win a teamfight victory, obviously, more enemy champions are dead. It means they're not pushing waves. It means they're not clearing wards. They're not putting down wards. X7's get to take a lot of those advantages. But at least Astralis have that Herald to push in this mid lane. This is now a push of tug of war. See who gets to push in mid, and whether X7 can punish any overextensions. Eyes on Tempt as well. No flash, no cleanse, no stopwatch. That's a double never move though. Viking over the wall. There's the demonic ascension into the backline. Viking goes with the cease and desist, but he's on cord and about to fall surely. Does go down. First kill. Frozen Thralls will start to come through, but on the other side, Tekka's taken so low. Will not quite fall, but does eventually, as Attila will get the other. Both solar lanes dead for Astralis. Tempt will use that Demon Flare to get a bit more damage onto Kiba, who flashes to get to the Hex Gates, but I don't know whether he can evacuate the area quickly enough. Chasey will crunch over a wall, and Tempt and Chasey will punish the Nautilus, who is very far out of his depth, diver's suit or not.
Tempt is such a beast. He's so hard to kill. He's taking up so much space in these team fights, and the damage is ridiculous. Takes down that last kill as rewards for his efforts in the mid lane, and Astralis. Couple of team fights back to back, even with the advantages they have. Were just not enough. X7 pulling themselves, dragging themselves back into the contest, even when they were so down, actually. In the early game, we were starting to get worried about them, these individual matchups, but it just hasn't mattered.
4 melees into Swain and Sivir, and Tempt's been the shining light in that one, and my god, with that Liandry's, he did a lot of burn damage. There ain't no killing this monster right now.
Sandra technically is ranged, but you dive in so close, you don't often care.
Ordinary melee.
At the end of the day, it's like everyone's in range of the Swain, and Swain is doing work. And after this, you're right, those shutdowns have come in. You're getting structures which are going to start getting hit now by X7. You've got a dragon being stacked up again, so they're even denying Astralis a lot of their neutral objectives. So many things starting to go in the favor of X7. The collateral going in their favor. And even though this has been, again, actually a fairly close game, if X7 close this out, that's it. It's 3-0. It's Astralis going home. It's no EU Masters. It's no chance at diving deeper into the playoffs of this NLC split. And X7 poised to do so. Just take another team fight or two. You'll see them on their way.
X7, what a redemption story it has been, this split from a team that looked lost, demoralized, and frankly, a little bit disappointing. They lost Haru, they lost Jaeger in the top side, and the team just wasn't functioning at the beginning half of the split. Now making this complete gauntlet run. They've got the Royal Road straight from round 1, looking to try and make their way all the way back to being the NLC champions again here. Another game. They are at least in the EU Masters. That's step 1 complete, as maybe Chasey could find his end on the end of another dive.
Let's see how quick Viking can get hit. Quick enough, it seems like it is going to be hits on tower. Taxa there to Shadow. So tower down. Astralis, of course, losing out some of the grouped up fights, but the side lanes are still strong for them. So that's one thing down. And Taxa making sure he's just impacting the game right. He's not farming Gromp while his side lane's pushing in or mid lane's pushing in, and he's just making sure he's present, he's available, he's ready to be called to the fight because he has so much gold, he needs to be at those fights. Tug of War does lead to side lane turrets on both sides going down though. I'm sure Astralis feel bold enough to follow up on Tempt, and they don't. But again, Taxa, I love the way he's just sitting in River. He is so important to this team right now. He needs to be close to the fight.
And needs to shadow one of the Aurelia or the Lissandra to kind of double up there. We know how that combo is supposed to work. You heard Aragon talk about it. Frozen Thrall into the Viego reset at the same time is a very potent combo of passives. The same with Aurelia. You can help her get resetting and running through people and try and get a hold of this game. Has now got the Gore Drinker to back up that Blade of the Ruin King. There's the Chempunk Chainsword backed up the Divine Sundra a little while ago. Yes, you've got the Seraph's Embrace upgrade from the Archangel staff now for Seraphine as well. So Astralis are hitting some of their item breakpoints. It's just that's also true on X7, and their team scales pretty damn well, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, well, you're on 2.5 items for Sivir, and while the first 2 games were very much Attila focused, been a little distanced from bot lane, honestly. We had, of course, a couple of dives go right, and that was one thing, but lest we forget what happens when 3 items hit on that Sivir. Particularly when you do have 2 or 3 people diving in, and actually Sivir can start ricocheting between them. Sivir can start racking up those damage numbers. It's going to be a baton pass a little bit between Tempt and Attila at some point, and I think that moment's coming soon.
It is, of course, this isn't an Imperial Mandate Swain either. It's the Liandry's, the Rylai's, looking towards Azonia's as well. Having got a lot of the early kills, I think I can understand why you build towards the damage. Is Carlson.
Oh, he's caught.
Interrupted, trying to get to the Hex Gates. There is the cease and desist, and Carlson on this Aurelia is fighting the long arm of the law. Chasey gets that one, and that's a bit of sweet, sweet vengeance and Schadenfreude for the earlier stages of the game.
That is a difficult one to stomach for Astralis, because if you're not winning your side lanes at this point, you really are at the whims of whatever X7 are going to do on the map. That is a sad kill to give up, and Carlson, he has had a heck of a glow up from Spring, actually.
Oh, hugely so.
He was the individual lane player, playing on Renekton, playing on Set or whatever, playing for that dominant lane, and then kind of trying to transfer his skills outside of that. He's had to do a lot of learning about these side lanes, had to do a lot of learning about how do you deal with being on weak side, especially when multiple members are committed towards you. And that is a really sad situation for him when he has so much resources this game. He really does need to be a pressure point for Astralis.
He was asked to play a very different style this game around, asked to be a tip of the spear or perhaps a tip of the dancing blades, whatever really happens to be wielding at the time. But outside of some early heroics with the tower dives, it's kind of been well punished by X7 over the last 10 minutes or so, and now with 15 seconds on what will be sole
let's
point
look at what's happening
for X7.
Let's have a look at what's happening here, because you're fighting for mid-prior. That definitely helps in terms of not walking through choke points. Choke points against either of these teams are disastrous. You got Renata on one side, Seraphine on another. They'll control these, and X7 managed to win the tug of war.
Glacial Path comes over, Keeper's pulled back. It's another never move attempt. Demonically attempts one more time, flashing in for a Mega Gnar as well. And the solo lanes from X7 brutalize Astralis. Senkux goes in, Senkux goes down. There is nowhere to go. True Ice melts just like that. Tempt is unstoppable. That feels like an apt description of this game.
X7 win the tug of war before the fight, and they absolutely mash it. It's not a tug of war, it's a tug of just beat down, or other terms like that. Astralis, they were just out of position. They were against that Renata ultimate, which swept through the team. Taxa doesn't have any way over this wall. Gonna have to watch this Baron go down or die trying.
He's got no flash, no ultimate. He's not even got a smite at the moment. It's on cooldown. So I think he's just got the back away. Chasey will chase him away. His namesake being very apt to teleport back in, maybe to get something at the end of it, but I don't know how wise that will be. It's Chrisberg who was the teleportee. Chasey will surely have a hop to get out of here, I expect, although he's kind of now with Mega Gnar in the wrong end of this pit, but there's the crunch and gets on out. Recall away, I apologize, from the likes of Tempt, and they get out with all members, and there's nothing
All right, what are we going
to
to do for this? Because this is where we're saying, look, mid lane priority is really important, because if you have to be the one in the choke point, in the terrain, which is really awkward, this is what happens. One side, yeah, I mean, Seraphine ult can do great in a small environment, but look at that Renata ult. It's absolutely disgusting. Astralis are on the retreat before they even get to start the fight.
Never move, Visions of Empire, and Tempt is looking to reclaim the empire he started in spring. There's been some dissenters, some defiers, but they will not be denied. Bow down when you come for the king, you best not miss. The rest of the NLC needs to look on and be just a little afraid. The kings of spring will looking for a second crown in summer.
Get themselves onto soul point after that one. It's another set of picks in Astralis. They tried so hard to get the advantages where they needed to be to avoid situations like this. They tried, they really did. They flipped the script just a little bit. They took Chrisberg off of the hyper carries, take them off of the crit carries, and tried to do something different, but X7 are just dominant all the same.
Big stun onto Chasey, but it's not going to be a 1v1, it's a 2v2. There's Vikings down here, they just need to buy time. The rest of X7 are doing what they can to break into the base, but now the teleports are coming through. It's going to leave Viking out to dry, they get the shut down. And that might prevent an easy enough shove in. The game's still going to keep running, but look at the rest of X7. They're coming to try and punish. Taxa, Carlson so low. Chasey nowhere near Mega Gnar, though, needs to be a little afraid.
Okay, well, Taxa just about to run out of the form. Has to Heartbreaker strike. They're trying to find some kind of fighting retreat.
Got to work this one out. Carlson keeping the stacks up best he can. Chasey trying to get this one out. The Visions of Empire land. The Flawless West misses, though. And we've seen this dance before. It goes Tempt's way, even if Aurelia starts it. That dance card, maybe you didn't want it filled in.
X7, they lose one on the side lane, but they're just so much stronger. Senkux has an ult. What can he do with it?
It's a hope, a prayer, and a use of the Frozen Tomb. He'll go golden briefly as Chasey goes Mega. We'll use a second option here. Encore through two, but a Mega Gnar into the wall again. Chasey continues to find them as Tempt lands another. Attila one after. And just like that, Astralis crumble and burn out. It's a supernova, but it's Astralis imploding.
To the stars are burning, the stars are falling. X7 making it a clean sweep. You've got to feel that way. Fight after fight, they are indomitable. Crushing through the bot lane, not to be ended just yet.
You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in the players from Astralis. They are desperately looking for anything, but it's a Hail Mary, and she ain't answering right now. Viking will land another Vault Breaker, and Crispeg's skull is caved in. Seraphine falls again.
It is just brutal. This is just utterly inhumane. X7, they just keep taking fights, and again, it feels like start of the game, things were going well topside for Astralis, maybe well enough that they could make the game not about the group fights, where the Swain just runs rampant, where you have this Sivir doing so much uncontested crit damage, but Astralis, they've tried that. They failed. They can't play around the side lanes. X7 are moving too quickly. They're catching them out too much, so they're forced into fights like this. And even with numbers advantages, even with okay angles of attacks, they managed to find some targets. It's just not nearly enough.
There's been a bit of a disturbance in the NLC this bit. We saw X7 stumble, and we wondered whether this team was going to fall apart. We saw Bifrost didn't make EU Masters. We wondered whether X7 might not either.
Is this where you reply with, I find your lack of faith disturbing?
Well, I think X7 certainly did, and they're feeling more and more like the Sith Lords of old right now, because they are ruthless right now. Astralis have got one last hope. And it's not quite episode 4 because it's in game 3 right now, and that one was where the Sith won, I tell you. Chasey gets Mega, and it's another dead Nautilus. Mega dart to the wall. Great Chasey is dominating. Krelson falls. Golden goes Senkux, but he'll have to deal with not even a podium position, because X7 will claim at least bronze in this split, and tales of X7's demise were greatly exaggerated. They won in spring, and if you want to take the crown from them, you'll have to do it out of their cold, dead hands. And I can tell you, everyone out there, they are well and truly alive in the NLC. Welcome back to the European Masters.
X7, you know what? We thought they'd have a heck of a challenge today. And I am not saying this was an easy series, but this is pretty terrifying. I was sat here ready to say, you know, winner of this series, going up against JDXL, oh, you know, it's going to be a good series. I'm pretty sure our top 3, top 4 pretty close in here. I'm looking at this now, and I'm looking at Excel sat in the bracket above them, and I'm like, oh, bloody hell, guys, you're going to have a rough one.
What a series indeed on that one. I think rough one's the right one. Of course, JDXL did a glow up. We saw their improved synergy. We saw a bit of a miracle, right? In the space of a week, they get this team online, but is it enough to face this?
Well, that's the thing. We have to start putting things in context now, because X7 here, they understood their win conditions, and I think the most impressive thing about this series is even when X7 found themselves in difficult situations, when they were up against, you know, losing side lane, maybe even lose 5v5s, they didn't lose their nerve. They managed to recollect themselves, and they were so poised. They're still on such a great terror form.
The wishing upon the Astralis star ends here. Their dream dies, but they did it in style. They should be proud of the improvement we saw, but in the end, it is still X7. It is still the champions in spring who continue to knock heads off as they run the lower bracket gauntlet. But that's enough from me. It's enough from Nymera. Archeron, Aragon, Trouble are here to break down the end of this series.
Well, if you want to use that word, breakdown, that's exactly what X7 did with Astralis. That was 3 clean games from X7 versus Astralis. There's not much to highlight on over here, but we need to do it anyway on this last game.
Okay, I'm going to say the 3-0 was clean, as in a numerical sort of a... Who are you? What? Hello?
You were saying?
Oh, someone got lost in their...
No, you were saying, Trouble? I'm sorry?
Right, so as a number, 3-0 looks pretty clean. I think their number 1 game was not very clean. The third game was actually not clean either. We love you, Quick Shot.
For those of you who didn't see, they did a really cool cold open, like you did it as well. Initialize did it as well, a cold open about, how do you say it?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction for the LEC. So if you guys didn't see it, like, go watch it. The only thing that concerned me about that, nobody ate the pancakes.
You didn't want these pancakes. They were there for quite a while. But yeah, jumping back into this series, I feel like X7 looked strong under their own terms, but they didn't look clean start to finish. I think especially in the last game, they had no business starting to lose from like that dominant position that they had. Suddenly Taxa starts getting kills, top lane starts getting kills, and it becomes so freaking chaotic to the point where you're like, Astralis is gonna win. Seraphine reaches 2 items as well, and you're like, this is difficult.
And like just to like continue this point, I'm really, really sad for the series, right? Because I just want to know what the series would have looked like if they
didn't jinx it.
Okay, that's it. Imagine if they drafted this way from the start. You take Astralis drafting these roamers, right, on keeper. Maybe we would have seen like a 4 or 5 game series, because I really do think, I don't know why they changed their identity completely coming into the series, and they were trying to be something they weren't. And then in the third game, that felt like them, right? That was actually them. You had Kiba roaming topside, securing all these dives, man. I wish we had a 5-game banger with actual Astralis.
So Astralis found that identity at the end of the road, but X7, did they ever show the different identity, or is always working right now?
I feel like I share the same sentiment like Singh said. They have 3 very strong individual laners, and whichever one you play for, they will come out ahead. If you give the counter pick to Chasey, like they did in game number 1, he's going to run down the Ornn, he's going to take the advantage, take it into the team fight. You give it to Temp, like here with the Swain, like in game 2 on the Ari, he's going to run away with it. Attila, no matter if you put him on an early game champion, on a mid, late game, hyperscaling champion, he's going to show up and show off, right? So it doesn't matter which lane you play for, what playstyle you play for. I feel like their team fights are stellar. I feel like especially Tempt in team fights, this guy is just so freaking difficult to play against that I actually, like, I'm worried for both of these teams that are waiting ahead of them.
So this locks in X7 on EU Masters. We still need to understand if they're going to take main stage or play-ins, as we have 3 Cs right now for NLC, but also we have 3 MVPs today, and it's up to you to vote. Who do you think was the most impactful one? Tempt, Kasing, or Attila? So head on to Twitter of NLC, put in your votes, and then we'll announce it before the show is over. And talking about one of those little gentlemen over there for the interview, it is a Portuguese stallion, Attila, that is waiting for us for the interview after this clean sweep. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello, Arsharam. How are you doing?
I'm actually doing quite well.
Wait, are you not going to tell him congratulations in Portuguese?
Should I?
Yes.
Parabéns, Attila. Como é que te sentes?
Foi fácil.
So it just said like it was easy, like the old one. So this was a really good representation from X7, and you lock yourself in EU Masters. Were you actually concerned when you went into playoffs?
And not at all. I actually was really surprised by the amount of people that were saying, "Oh, this is going to be a really rough series. Astralis is coming up in hot," and I'm like, "Nope, they're not. Like, what are you guys saying? Like, come on, like." Time to wake up, you know, like if you want to come on our boat, you can come out right now. Like, don't come after we won the NLC.
If I may, I want to set up a question, because it seemed like Astralis didn't pick the way they used to pick. So you believe there was a little bit of a fear versus X7, or do you think they played the way they should play?
I just think they had really a lot of champion pool issues. If you saw, like, our approach was like we banned 3 jungles, I think almost every game, like first three bans. Because basically, I think like their AD carry couldn't play many AD carries, and I was really comfortable on just counter picking or picking whatever matchup they just led me. I think like the support was really one-sided on the way he actually wants to play. That's why I'm so surprised they picked Lulu when like they looked best when Kiva is just roaming around creating chaos like this last game. And I just think like really like Chase was inside their heads. Like I think they were like just having nightmares from this 0-3 Aurelia, like just going 50 CS up, doesn't matter, like you can kill him, like he's gonna come back anyway. So I just think like they had a bit of a mental block against us, and I just think like our team is just stepping up more and more each day. So.
And that was my question. I know you have one.
Yeah, I'm going to dig a little bit into the past, and I know that in general you're a very confident person. I remember all the banter and the beef with Upset back in EU LCS and everything. So through your time over in the big leagues, through the ERLs, you've honestly never had a problem facing anyone. And this has sometimes gone well, this has sometimes gone south for you, right? Now in the NLC, obviously the objective is to win it all and go to EU Masters, but honestly, every single player has said how the NLC level has gone up when it comes to teams, when it comes to opponents, when it comes to competition. So seeing both Excel and Dusty waiting, doesn't matter whether it's semis or finals, seeing both of them having waiting in front of you, right? Doesn't matter which side you're going to face first. Are you even not slightly concerned, but do you think they're going to give you this big best of 5 series?
Not Excel. I think Excel are just not good. As I said, like I think previous week, I believe, like on the quarterfinals, so like right before playoffs started, I thought like this team is just not good. And I actually have some banter with some players of that team because they have really big mouths and really small hands.
So I really don't like these guys. But I just think this team is actually not that good. I think probably our series is going to be 3-0, 3-1 because we tend to always try to win one game. Like this third game, we really wanted to lose, but dinner's ready, so gotta eat. But I think like Dusty right now is looking actually good. Like they are a team that is actually annoying to play against. Like this Kerberos guy plays Nasus top lane, plays really weird stuff. Like they tend to play always this Yasuo shenanigans that the carries really don't like. So I think this team is actually going to be a real interesting best of 5 when we reach finals. I don't think we're gonna lose semis, honestly. And as well, I am just looking forward to prove that Stand was my anchor on Giants. I'm kidding.
Okay, so if I may, I want to set up a question for you and something for the future, because you're talking about being hungry and talking about only Dusty can win and something about beef. So if you want to talk about beef, might as well, if you lose versus JDXL, would you be willing to make a video of apology, not only to me, but the entire organization?
Every time.
I'm really down for that. As far as I'm concerned, I predicted every single playoffs run so far.
So far, so good. Yeah, it seems so.
I said Dusty will win. I said we'll smash everyone. I just predicted Riddle to win Astralis. Astralis actually played really good best of 5 on that series.
They did, yeah.
Won best of 5. So far, so good.
I have one last question, obviously, because your next opponent is going to be JDXL, whether they're trash or not, whether they trash talk or not. You keep saying that they're not a great team, even though they had a pretty good running. Why do you think that is?
They kicked their best player. Toxic or not, it was like their main pillar. You know, like if you remove the pillar from the house just falls apart. So MNS mod check, like where's MNS? MNS is not there. I think the rookie that they put in is doing a nice job. I think like the last series, I was expecting them to just crumble, and actually they did pretty decent. But I just think that we're built different, and meme that if you wish.
I will, believe me. If this goes south, Attila, boy.
It's not going south, it's going to XL. Not to the stars, though. Not to the stars anymore.
Well, the stars are no longer available. Talking about that, you lock into you Masters. Look into all regions. Is there any region
Giants
from LFL?
I want Giants. Yes, I want Giants. That's what you're asking me. Really
that was way too fast.
That's not even difficult, man. Historically, we've literally destroyed the Superliga in the Masters, so that's not even difficult. I mean, you had some of these experiences to yourself being in the Superliga, Attila, so...
What? I never lost the NLC, by the way. I always kept losing to Germany.
Don't worry, man. If you don't make it out of groups, you can't lose to the NLC. It's fine.
Okay, that's actually fair enough.
You're bringing the heat, I'm sending it back.
It was a good one, Attila. Thank you so much for this interview. Always a pleasure. And I'll see you soon on the next show day. Let's see if it goes your way. Have a nice one.
Thank you very much. See you in finals.
See you.
We'll have to see him on Monday.
We have to. I don't think...
Lower bracket finals.
He was not wrong.
True.
So, how you feel after this interview, Eragon? Because they bring a lot of heat.
I mean, confidence, right? You just went 3-0. I respect it. I kind of have to...
every game as well.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
You played really well every single game. That 2v2, double kill, ended up 2-0. Then suddenly he's 10-0 on Aphelios. You got to give it to him.
So he was talking about it's going to be a sweep versus JDXL. I'm not too keen of your predictions right now. They're kind of cloudy, but I still want to ask you.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a 3-0 or 3-1, yeah.
So we have 5 games.
Yeah.
I am on the same ball right here. I feel like Tab's champion pool is going to be a little bit difficult for Roscoe to play in. The bot lane has been extremely volatile for XL, and I don't think the tops of the map, jungle and top, will be enough to shut down an entire team.
It was Don Jake. I think it was Don Jake, or maybe you. Something was talking about they needed 1 month to make this.
It was Don Jake, yeah.
Don Jake talking about 1 month to make this composition work. They did it in a little bit less time, but let's see if they can fix it versus X7. Now on to Astralis. They did make a really good run on these playoffs. Everybody was surprised by them. So let's kick it off to Syncox that is waiting for us for the interview. Welcome to the interview. Obviously, now with the score that you were expecting, but if I may... Do you believe the identity of Astralis was kind of confusing on the first few games?
I mean, we played something different from last week, but I think the first game was still after the lead we got on us. Yeah, I mean, we've maybe lost a bit of our identity from before, but I mean, it was still winnable games.
When you look into X7, how did you prepare versus this team versus the one you prepared before?
I mean, not different. Like, of course it's different, but I mean, we just look at the team, right, and identify the best way for us to play into them. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the same as against Riddle, you know, like just try and figure out the best way for us to play into their hand.
Trouble.
Sankax, obviously, it always sucks to freaking lose, and I think you've had a fantastic and phenomenal split, honestly. You've been an absolute terror in the mid lane. You've been an absolute terror this entire series as well. And I think that Astralis has come a freaking long way from spring to summer and in the playoffs and the way you played against Riddle and even the way you played against X7, if anything. And even though the score does not necessarily reflect what you guys would like to see, do you believe you did give them a run for their money?
Yeah, I think so. I would have hoped we could have gotten a game or two, so it doesn't look like a 3-0 stomp. But yeah, I mean, we didn't just fall over and die, so that's a good thing. Like, we at least did a little fist fighting here and there.
Yeah, it's not the reflection of what the games were, by the way. Not even
for sure not.
For you as well, not even close. I have to make the question now. It is going to be JDXL versus X7 on the best of 5. As a player, what is your prediction for that one?
Game score as well, or just team winning?
Okay. Senkox.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I think X7 is the proper favorites for it. But yeah. I mean,
Do you think they're going to take the entire thing? Even versus Dusty?
I mean, the Dusty one I think is a bit more close, but I would say that they're favorites right now, yeah.
Okay. Tell me something, parting words for this entire split. After the run Astralis brought in from spring split to summer split, your rebrand of rebrand worked really well for you, so I would like to get your final words for every Danish fan out there.
I mean, it's always nice to play on a full Danish team, and I'm happy we turned around the south stuff of spring split at least, and was close to making some UM runs here.
Okay, I'm gonna try this one, Senkax. Correct me if I'm wrong. Denmark for helvete. That's what I know from Guborg.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
It's close enough. Senkax, thank you so much for these interviews. It was a pleasure to see you on Summer Split. I might say that the start may have fallen, but you rose so high, man. You played really well.
Thank you.
Have a nice one.
Thank you, guys. You too. Bye.
He did. He was a beast in the mid lane.
He waved at the end.
He waved. So we got the wave. I know, obviously, having the five roster man from Denmark.
I think the story of the split for Astralis has been how well Senkax and Taxa finally managed to play together. I think the glow up for both Taxa and Senkax was insane. And even though I know we keep pointing our finger to Kiba because he was the obvious, you know, piece that changed inside the team, I feel like the synergy that these two found, together with how Senkax was able to take all of the leads, all the resources, and use them for the victors versus Astralis, these guys should be very proud of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the exact same thing, right? When I first came on the show, I had to do a bunch of prep for all the teams, right? Because I hadn't watched that much NLC beforehand. And I tried to like establish an idea. Come on, man, forgive me. I had to establish like an identity. That was the first thing I did for each team. And every single time I watched them, whenever I asked anyone's opinion on the teams, they were like, Senkax and Taxa, Senkax and Taxa. It always revolved around them. I think they played phenomenally, the split.
They did an amazing run, obviously, but it's over for them only if you had 4 seeds. I'm already looking for the next one, okay? We got 3, I'm looking for 4 right now.
To be fair, with no Carmen Corp in the finals, it's free, man. I'm telling you, it's free low. This Masters is free low for the NLC.
I don't know, I've heard that before. So let's kick it with the play of the day by Mastercard. Who was it? Let me see. Maybe a little cat enjoyer, was it?
Ooh.
This is a really good team fight, if I may break it down. Everything here hinged off of the, actually the, I've forgotten the name of the champion. Renata, thank you. The Renata pick. Essentially, we didn't bring this up on the desk, but it was super important because it actually countered the way Astralis wanted to play the entire team fight, which is based on making that one big pick and bursting someone. But when you have a Renata W on that target that they want to burst, it's soft countered. You need to kill them twice to secure that Viega reset, that Frozen Tomb reset, if that's what it's called. I'm terrible with names.
It's Frozen something.
Frozen something like that. But yeah, we didn't rate up the Renata well enough. I think Renata's been really pivotal in this entire series.
Okay, I got the MVP. Do you guys want to guess?
Oh, you wrote it down as well.
Attila.
You think it's Attila?
It has to be Attila.
Makes sense. What about you?
I'd say Tempt.
Tempt?
I think Tempt's team fighting was absolutely freaking stellar. And even though he left 0-5 and 0-6 from lane, the way he turned it around on this Lissandra, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Attila because he tore them up apart.
Yeah.
What do you
on
think
every
it's
single
Tempt?
kick.
You want to say something?
I think it could be Tempt because people are biased towards the most recent game, right? He popped off on that Swain game, right? So
you think it's Tempt?
But across the entire series, I'd say Attila personally.
That's
So you
it,
think it's
man.
Attila? You think it's Attila?
Attila.
I mean, you need to stop your predictions, man. It's not working, okay? It's not working.
Is it actually Tempt?
It is Tempt. It is Tempt.
What's wrong with me?
I don't know, man.
Predict?
Like, as soon as I saw him on the show, like, oh, this guy is like 500 IQ, man. This guy's gonna jinx us. No, I'm kidding. It could go for each of them, Tempt, Attila, or even Kasing. All of them played really well today.
I think they all played really well as a team. I think this rock in the mid lane, though, has been so pivotal to X7's success. I remember in the Masters together with Haru. Haru was having some funny games, I will say. But Tempt, level 3 solo kills on the Azir. Like, this guy's an absolute rock in the mid lane, and he's one of the best probably teammates to have. Like, his champion pool, his versatility, the way he plays the game, the way he doesn't tilt. Like Asing has told us that he stays leveled throughout the entire game. He keeps finding the fights, eyes on the prize. I think these are stellar ways of someone's personality and also in-game play to have.
Will there be a vote for the MVP of the split overall?
I will ask social media to do that. But
I think Tempt is in the running. I actually think Tempt is such a good player.
So he's not going to win.
Come on, man. I've got to be right sometime.
You will be. I believe in that one.
Taking the curse off me, it's fine.
Let's show the bracket for the playoffs. Like, what do we have else right now? We have JDXL versus X7. 5 days from now, it's going to be a banger best of 5. Whoever wins from that one not only will be tossed to the winners final, but also will be on the main stage of EU Masters. We keep talking about this one, but also be in the finals for the NLC to be the king of the North. I mean...
Can I be completely honest here?
Please?
I feel like out of these 3 teams, I think the one that is ready for main stage is probably X7 and Dusty.
Yeah.
And why I'm saying that is because I feel like JDXL might actually benefit from going through the planes the same way that I think Bifrost benefited from going through the planes. No one expected Bifrost to come out of that. No one expected Bifrost to come out of the literal group of death, leaving behind an LFL team in that group and actually making it all the way to the quarterfinals. And for a team that's right now still developing, still gelling together, I'd say it's better for them to go through the planes and have X7 and Dusty straight into main stage.
I mean, there's actually a lot of evidence to like support this theory, right? There's if you look at Worlds, teams that go through play-ins, like take the immediate one that comes to mind for me actually is C9, the NA team, right? They went through play-ins and they suddenly did really well and went straight to semi-finals or quarterfinals or whatever it was. I think playing in play-ins and more experience is really good for any team.
Tarek, think about that, by the way, as we are about to take a break, obviously.
Don't give them an excuse, man.
No, I'm just giving him power to the interview. I know it's going to be him, so might as well give him power. Final words for the day. Let's start with you, Trouble, before we go into adding on.
Just really happy to work with you again, Aragon. I think you bring insane insights, especially when it comes to top lane as well, and things that we don't expect around drafts and gameplay. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm happy we have 3 extremely strong 3 seeds going straight into the EU Masters, and I can't wait to see what our final is going to look like.
I just want to say I really appreciate it. I always enjoy coming on the show, so I hope I'm back soon.
I do a lot of memes, but it's a pleasure to have you with us. You are 500 IQ. Even though you missed all predictions, you have the 500 IQ. For you, well, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with the other one, JDXL versus X7. The match of the center, yet again, it's going to be these 2 teams to understand who's going to follow Dusty to the main stage of EU Masters into the final of Summer Split Playoffs 2022 NLC. So, best of luck. Keep climbing the mountain. I'll see you soon. Have a nice one. Come